Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Nampa City Council meeting. We have a big group here, and I appreciate you guys all attending this evening, both in person and online. As we get started, you know, it's such an honor that we have the opportunity to have a local pastor pray with us. And so Pastor Chris Evanson with the Nampa Seventh-day Adventist Church has prayed for us a number of times. Thank you so much for coming. And your son, Jacob, is that right? Yep. Did I get it right? I was going to say, you just told me. So it's good to have you here this evening, joining your dad. So why don't you open us in prayer? And let's stand.
Let us pray. Thank you. Father in heaven, Lord, we thank you so much for your love for us. We thank you for the blessings of being a part of this city. Lord, we thank you for our leaders. We thank you for our public servants. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity we have to be in this place. And Lord, this evening as business of the city is conducted, as decisions are made that impact lives, Lord, we pray that your Holy Spirit will lead and guide in the minds of our leaders and the decisions that are made, that it will benefit your people, that it will benefit all those who live here in the city of Nampa. Lord, we just thank you for your presence and the opportunity to invite you here. And we ask for wisdom this evening on all behalf of all of those making decisions. Bless this time tonight, and may the outcome be for your honor and the blessings of the citizens of this city. We love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
And you
Appreciate
just opened. Would you like to tell us what you just got your permit for?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. Back in March of 2020, right before the pandemic set in, we purchased the old St. Al's Medical Building at 211 West Iowa Avenue. In the last 3 years, we've converted it to a community resource center called Lifting Lives Community Resource Center. Just a week and a half ago, we got occupancy for it. And so we're looking forward to health classes, cooking classes, Financial Peace University, dental clinics, medical clinics, anything we can do there to serve our community. So we're really excited. We're opening our clothing bank again. At the beginning, when COVID set in, our clothing bank closed at our community service center. And so we're looking forward to opening that with 3 times as much space. Also opening a diaper bank there as well, and tripling our ability to distribute food to the community. So we're serving anywhere between 120 and 150 families per Wednesday afternoon. And so it is a tremendous ministry, and we just look forward to finding new ways to continue to serve this community. So.
That is so, thank you for what you're doing, and what a wonderful opportunity to take that former medical facility and turn it into this community resource center. That is wonderful.
It's tremendous. We're very, very excited to find ways to work with the city and the resources within the city to bless our community.
Thank you.
So.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
for being here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's go ahead and do roll call.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Bruner.
Here.
Jingula.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Haverfield.
Here.
All present.
Are there any proposed amendments to the agenda? I'm not aware of any, but is anyone here? Seeing none, I would stand for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded.
Whoever you want.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, the consent agenda. I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda unless the council requests something be moved off the consent agenda for further discussion. I want to make sure I give you that opportunity.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as prepared for us.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so our first action item this evening, wow, didn't expect it, but it is to accept Jacob Bauer's letter of resignation from City Council. And then we're going to get to honor him. But the first actual process is that we need a motion to accept his letter of resignation, whether we want to or not.
Mayor Kling,
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion to deny that request.
Second.
Second. I'll second the motion.
Okay, there is an official motion on the table, and it has been seconded. Would you guys like to retract that motion for Jacob's sake and his family's sake? Retracted?
Yes.
Yes, okay. His wife is going, no. So would there be a motion to support Jacob and his family in their decision?
So move. He has the right priorities, Mayor. Appreciate that.
Second.
Yes. It's been moved and seconded to accept the resignation of Councilman Jacob Bauer effective immediately. Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Everfield.
Reluctantly, yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So with that, am I getting something out of order? Now's the time we get to honor you. Yeah, I think we need to do that. So, I did not give opportunity for discussion, and I know the council would like to have the opportunity to say something. Would you like to hold your comments until we get to the end for council? Maybe we'll do that. Okay, so I think we're going to let police go first. So we'll let police come forward. And fire, are you guys all together? There we go. I see Kirk. And Chief Huff. I know it's kind of crowded. Maybe stand on this side because it's back so far, and then turn the mic around or pick it up. Yeah, there you go.
So just on behalf of public safety, but specifically I'm going to speak for the police department, I just want to thank you. I want to thank your family for the time that you've given to the city. I know that it's not easy spending time away from your family. You've been an extremely strong supporter of public safety, and I just want you to know from me how much I appreciate you, the phone calls that we've had, the support that you've had for the team here. And I know that you always back us, and everything that, that you've just done for me personally over the last, 4 years. So I just wanted to present you a city flag from the police and the fire department. Also, can you hold that, Kirk? Also wanted to give you 2 challenge coins from the police department. So this is our newest challenge coin that we do every year for the police department, and that's the newest edition. But then this is more of a special coin for us. This is a command coin. So we give these coins to somebody that goes above and beyond and deserves that. On the back of the coin, you'll see it's a chief, a deputy chief, a lieutenant, or captain that can give this coin out. So the command staff here, it was a no-brainer that we give this to you. So I believe this is about the 10th coin we've handed out in the last 8 or 10 years. So I just wanted to thank you again, Jacob. So if you'd accept that, and thank you for your service here. So, Kirk, Yep.
So I too have a coin for you. I want to say for the men and women of the Nampa Fire Department, we are very thankful that you chose to serve the city of Nampa. The Nampa Fire Department, of course, had its biggest historic change while you were in leadership, and I know that you're quick to trust but verify with us, helped us achieve a goal of sustainability forever. And so we do appreciate you, family, also. As a public servant, it is a sacrifice, and so kids and wife, please be proud of his service here. It was big for our citizens and public safety. So from all of us at Nampa Fire, we too want to thank you and give you our challenge.
Oh, okay. I guess that's photo time for us. So.
Yeah.
There we go. Balance it out.
Actually, City Council, why don't you guys all come down? Come on down here for this. And then, family, come on up. Family, come on up, and council, come on down. And let's stand back here. This is so uniquely far back this time. I'm not sure why, unless we could just move it right now so we could be not hiding behind it. But, oh well. So if council can come on down and you guys can join us. But I tell you what, I was so surprised And Jacob, you know what? As I read your letter and listened to you, thank you for honoring your wife and your kids, because that is the highest calling. I'm proud of you. Yeah. You know what? It has been such a joy to work alongside you. And I didn't know when you came in if it would be that way or not. But you have been just such a pleasure because I've seen your heart. You have a heart to serve. You guys should be proud of your dad. Right? Because you have a heart to serve your family. So it's just been great. So excuse me, I get to do the teary thing for you, but flowers for you. Thank you. And then kids, do you mind taking turns? I'll let you hold this. That's your dad's little thing on the front. Here's his photo. And then I get to read to you. So this is a special gift that we do for each retiring council member, just letting you know how much we appreciate you. And it says, "Dear Jacob, on behalf of the city of Nampa, we'd like to thank you for your commitment and service to our community as a member of the Nampa City Council. Your time serving our council has greatly benefited the city and its residents, if I can talk. Your passion to humbly serve our growing community is evident through the many hours of stewardship you dedicated to ensure the best possible decisions were made on behalf of the citizens that you represented. The time and commitment required to serve as a member of the Nampa City Council is a sacrifice. Thank you for the countless hours you spent listening to citizens and serving our community as a respected community leader and council member. We would also like to thank your family for their support, and which allowed you to serve. So thank you all. We wish you and your family the best in your new home and community, and then come back, right? You'll have to. So there you go. And then council, do you have any comments? If you want to roast him or something, it's just a great opportunity to do so. Darrell, come on in and let's scoot over a little bit. And that way we can all be here and you can, yeah.
Well, I get to go first. That'll be the easy part because Darrell's going to sing. So you guys might want to leave now. But anyway, Councilman Bauer, it's been fantastic to sit up there on the dais with you. Your knowledge and your integrity always shines through, and that means a lot. And I've learned a lot from you, and I appreciate you.
I wasn't planning on crying, but as the only woman on the council, I guess I'm allowed to, and with Mayor. But Jacob has just been such a mentor to me, and I'm just so appreciative of everything that you've done for me to get me settled into council, and you're going to be missed, and you've just been such a good inspiration, so I appreciate everything you've done.
I'm going to miss our looks. I would look over on that side, we call them the South Siders.
And Natalie was on our side.
Yeah, but I would look, I know, I would look over at Jacob, and I like, how's he going to vote? So I'd go like this, and he'd go right back. So I went, yes. Oh, sorry. Oops. But, it's been a real treat with Jacob because he's so solid and he's strong in voice, but he's got a huge heart for Nampa. Now he's going to go to Star, and I hope that we see him on the legislative side, because what he gives to us is more important than we can all give each other is dedication to our communities. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Jacob, obviously, sixth grade, I think, is where I first met you. Being able to be your coach at that level and be able to tell you at that point, I've told many people I was actually taller than Jacob at one time. But to watch your growth, to see you become the man that you've become, to mentor your kids and to want to mentor others as well, that speaks volumes to me. And I know you will do well. I know that the days ahead for you and your family are special. And we appreciate you and all that you've done for our city. And we want to see you return to Nampa sooner than later, maybe as a head coach at one of our high schools as well. But thank you for the time you've served, and we really appreciate you. Thanks.
Jacob, you know what I think, and words don't do justice. But what I appreciate about you and this whole council is in those 4 words that are above our emblem up there: in God we trust. and that's our distinction as far as Nampa. And you kept that distinction, and whoever replaces you or whatever, we just want to make sure that continues forever, so thank you. Who gets it?
I think that's it.
Oh,
We'll put it
national
back.
anthem.
Let's do a photo. Okay. Yeah. Come on over, guys. Let's stay right there.
Gee, he sounds taller than I am.
Well, thank you all. You should be proud of your dad and the work he did. Thank you. Thank you. By the way, would you like to say something? We almost forgot. Where'd that microphone go? Here we go.
The next quarterback following Jake is his son.
So you can pull that out of there. Okay.
You know, this happened so fast, but I just did want to thank all our department heads, all the council members that I've gotten to know, Mayor Rick. I feel like I've gotten to be close with you two in the mayor's office, and what we do is so important. And I hope you guys keep those 4 words above you and keep the conservative principles that this town have. And I'm gone, but I'll be here, you know, watching out and behind the shadows and elections and all the things you know that I do best in. And really, I love all of you. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to serve. I want, first of all, to thank my wife and kids. It's been a sacrifice to leave them on Monday nights. And, you know, me and Rachel thought this was best to show the boys how to serve. And that's kind of when we ran, Bubba was 7. He was, you know, half Wayland's size. So it's just kind of crazy how fast it goes. And this really is a decision based on what's best for the boys, and we had to make it. So love you all. Thank you. Thank you all that voted for me. Special thank to our first responders. Joe, probably my biggest thing I'm proud of is supporting you guys and supporting our first responders and making sure you guys have all the tools you have to keep this down the way it's meant to be. So thank you very much.
So the next item on our agenda is a proclamation, and this is Elder Abuse Awareness Month. And I think we have some ladies, and I've got to find my sheet. Oh, there we go. So Jeannie, Patrice, and Sylvia, go ahead and come forward as I read the proclamation, and we'll have you share with us for just a minute after I conclude. Whereas older adults deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, to enable them to serve as leaders, mentors, volunteers, and vital participating members of our communities. Whereas in 2006, the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse in support of the United Nations International Plan of Action proclaimed a day to recognize the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. And whereas the City of Nampa and the Nampa Family Justice Center recognize the importance of taking action to raise awareness, prevent, and address elder abuse. And whereas 2023 marks the 17th annual World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, its recognition will promote a better understanding of abuse and neglect of our older adults. And whereas as our population lives longer, we are presented with an opportunity to think about the collective needs and future as a nation. And whereas ageism and social isolation are major causes of elder abuse in the United States, recognizing that it is up to all of us to ensure that proper social structures exist so people can retain community and societal connections, reducing the likelihood of abuse. And whereas preventing abuse of older adults through maintaining and improving social supports like senior centers, human services, and transportation will allow everyone to continue to live as independently as possible and contribute to the life and vibrancy of our communities. Now, therefore, I, Debbie Kling, Mayor of the City of Nampa, Idaho, do hereby proclaim June 2023 as Elder Abuse Awareness Month, and the City of Nampa requests that every citizen of our great community to build safer lives in a safe community for our elderly residents. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the amazing work that you do. And for sharing with us.
Hello. Can I just introduce you really quick?
Yes.
This is Sylvia, and she is an advocate, elder advocate, does a phenomenal job. They care about the people. This is Patrice. She is also one of our elder advocates, and they absolutely are compassionate and care about our folks that we're working with and serving all the time. So if it's okay, may they share. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
So I want to start off by saying thank you so much to the council, to you, Mayor, to city officials, for all of your continuous support at the Nampa Family Justice Center. And thank you for bringing awareness to elder abuse. In Idaho, 1 in 10 elders are victims of elder abuse. Like our victims of domestic violence, they are often subjected to being controlled, manipulated, and exploited. Sadly, oftentimes at the hands of their family members and their close friends. At the Justice Center, our mission is to promote safety, self-sufficiency, hope, and healing to victims of abuse. And we are constantly advocating to bring awareness and to help our victims so that our elders do not have to suffer in silence. Thank you.
So we at the center, as advocates, help those that are elder abuse victims. And what we try to do is give them back their dignity, their voice, and their independence that's been taken away from them. Most of you know that Nampa is not immune to this. It's happening in our communities, our neighbors, our churches, and in our families. And I just wanted to share with you 2 quick client stories briefly of the multitude of different situations that we do at the center. First one was an elder, age 69. She had been put into a restricted memory care unit by her daughter, and her daughter had forced her to do a power of attorney. So a concerned family member of this one elder called us, said, "We don't believe that she needs to be there." So as the elders went out to assess it, spoke with her, it was very obvious that she did not belong in a memory unit. So we made a list of different things that we could help her with. The first one, we were able to, and one of the reasons she was in there, because she was about to inherit $50,000. So this is quite common in families. It's usually money matters. And so we wanted to be able to thwart that before that happened. So we went out there, were able to get her diagnosed, took her to a neurologist, and it was not dementia. She was fine. We were able to get her banking, rescind the POA, which is the power of attorney, so she could be independent again. Able to get her state ID back because the family had taken her birth certificate, her Social Security, and all other identifications from her, so she was not able to do anything. We were able to get those documents back for her, find housing for her. She is now happy and healthy, living independently, and have reached out to other family members that are more caring. So the second one I wanted to share with you is happening quite a bit. It's happened, I've assisted 3 elders just this year. You may have heard it in the news, the love scams. They're really attacking our elders and abusing them, wiping them all of savings. They're losing homes. This particular one I wanted to share with you, that's what was happening. She lost almost everything. So she wanted to go and live with her mother. So we assisted her in finding an honest real estate agent. We're able to sell her mobile home, get the cash that she needed, change her phone, get her a new phone number, and a new banking. So she is now happy and healthy and free and independent and has been educated on these scams. So what we would like to do, we're very grateful for the mayor and the city council members for your support. We couldn't do any of this without you. And we want to invite you and those in the audience. We are having an elder abuse prevention walk on June 23rd at 10 o'clock. We'll begin at the Napa Family Justice Center and end at Lloyd Square. So it's just a little mild jaunt. We'll have hot dogs and drinks and chips, so come and join us and support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the work that you guys do. It's so meaningful and appreciated. Thank you. Jeannie, thank you so much. Oh, Amy, could I hand this to you? I'll let you pass it out to them. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is our public forum, and we do have 2 recognitions before we step into anyone signed up to speak. And the first one is Union High School. And so is Ms. Menson here this evening? Hi, come on forward. Yes, come on down, yeah. Come on down. And Ms. Minson, I will let you share what these guys have done, and we're just so proud of you.
So, again, I'm from Union. We're Union School now.
Okay.
This is 7th grade. It's about half of my class. It's
Wow.
summer, and getting him here was a little challenging. At Union, it's an amazing alternative school with the Nampa School District, and this year we were asked to do a Give Back to the Community project. And so the students decided, we had some ideas, and they voted on cleaning up the parks. And so May 26th, we set out on a whole day adventure. We started at Liberty Park with our garbage bags, and we're cleaning up that park, moved on to West Park, and then from there to Lakeview Park, and then ended at Ora Brandt Park, where we ran into one of the park's employees, and he was like, wow, what are you guys doing? Because he didn't see us running to the play areas, he saw us picking up trash. And that kind of started, hey, we want to thank you, and all these kind of cool things. We're honored to be here. But at Union, we want to just to show our students that we do give back and the importance of giving back to our community and to do these things, which they have been a part of. So that's kind of what we did.
It is awesome, and Adam Mancini is the one that actually saw you guys and greeted you, and I would love, we need to take a picture, but come on forward, kids, because it'd be nice to shake your hand, and so come on up here. Yes. Excuse me, stand up here. So what is your name?
Anthony.
Anthony, it's so nice to meet you. What grade are you in? 7th grade, okay. Are you all 7th?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all 7th grade. And you are? Bo. Come on up here. Thank you, Bo. It's so nice to meet you. Who's next? Come on up. So what's your name? Joey. It's so nice to meet you, Joey. Thank you. And? Israel. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you. And what was your name again? Marissa. It's so nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Sophia, thank you. It's nice to meet you. And Bella, thank you so much for your work. Maika, it's so nice to meet you. Come up here and face that way, and we're going to get a picture. Council, do you guys want to be right behind us? Come on over. Here we go.
What was that?
Trash. Kids, you're amazing. Thank you. Thank you for your work. Thank you, Ms. Minson. Thank you very much. So we have another recognition that I would like to mention, and I don't think they're here this evening, but I tell you what, I love it when people are doing great things. And so I think all the council is familiar with this, but I'm just going to read it out loud. And this came from someone that had sent in a note that said, "Today I witnessed the City of Nampa utility truck with 3 gentlemen step out of their vehicle, remove their hats, and place their hands over their heart. I was curious what they were doing when I noticed a funeral procession going over the north side overpass. They had stopped at a stop sign behind BK on 1st Street South to pay their respect to the procession. I thought it was absolutely amazing, and it still gives me goosebumps to think of it. Great job, fellas. You made me proud to live in Nampa, Idaho, and I've lived here all my 46 years. I don't know who that came from, but the traffic employees that stopped were Robert Becerra. Am I saying that right, Tom, or someone? Becerra, Abraham Cloudman, and James Lusk. And so just a call out to those guys. Isn't that wonderful? I love it. And I thought, you know, for all the city employees, this is the standard we all need to set. So pretty impressive. So, Shar, is there anyone else signed up to testify?
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
If I could just quote that, that was on Nextdoor app, and there was 500 positive comments over those 3 gentlemen.
Isn't that neat?
That's just cool. That's just really, really cool.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I apologize, Madam Mayor. Our first speaker is Don Eaton.
And Don, thank you for coming forward and giving us your address. Go ahead and state your name again and your address.
Don Eaton, 420 West Roosevelt, Nampa, Idaho. 2 years ago, well, it's been longer than that. Been about 11 years ago, I bought this place. And right across the street from me was a brother that he was handicapped. He was born that way, and he had a breathing problem, or I'm not sure quite what it was. He's passed. And he got to know Scruff. This is Scruffy here. And Scruff is just a dog that he's anybody's buddy. I felt sorry for Brandon. This house that he lived in, so did his older brother. And I come to find out it was a drug house. Brandon was on a fixed income that came in. Eric Dunn, that owns the house, was doing nothing but taking one rent check, running to Oregon and picking up their smoke or their drugs, and maybe paying the rent on the house or buying the house. I don't know. I do know this. They stole the pressure washer from me. Everybody I live on that street knows that's a drug house. The young kid, Eric's son, was living with his mom over on 703 State Street on the opposite side of Roosevelt. He got booted out of Nampa High School for selling drugs. I've known about this for 10, 11 years, and why that place has never been busted. There was one officer that retired out of the force, and Luther, something like that. But anyway, he told me they had busted, I don't know, 2 or 3 people on that street for drugs. All I'm trying to do, when I found out what these guys were doing, I mean, they bought a pickup from Eric's niece that rolled up in Spokane. They brought it down here, put a windshield in it, took some of the dings out of it, put mirrors on it, turned it over to one of their drug buddies. His name's Ted Martin. I had to find all this out myself. I was trying to get help to figure out all these guys' names and what was going on. When they were building the high-rise buildings off 10 Mile, They gate that thing with the fencing. These guys stole fencing, had all this stuff in their backyard. 2 days prior to my pressure washer coming up missing, I hit Aaron, the guy that stole my pressure washer, because he owed Eric rent for his son moving in and taking over Brandon's spot in the other bedroom. And he was about 6 months behind in rent. For 5 months, I listened to Eric bitch to me about Aaron owing him more money. Then 2 days after that, Aaron walks over the fence to hand me a cigarette because I had been trying to quit smoking. So I'd bum a cigarette from Aaron, give him 25 cents, 30 cents for it. But anyway, he told me he came to my house at midnight, knocked on my door, and if you think you're going to knock on my door with these two dogs, you're not even going to get to the screen door to open the screen door without these guys going off like an alarm clock.
I hate to interrupt you, but we're past our 3 minutes.
Okay,
So,
well, all I'm wanting to do is get these guys.
So I tell you what, you've got the guys right at the back of the room right there, and they're the ones that are going to talk to you.
Okay.
Mr. Kurt Schenkel is standing right there, and I would love for you to share the addresses and exactly what you're talking about with him, and then he will follow up.
I don't have nothing against Aaron's mom. Aaron's mom has been so truthful with me, it's not even funny, but she knows all about this.
Yeah. Mr. Eaton, thank you for coming.
Yep.
Thank you, and Kurt will take care of you. He'll help you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Lisa Potts.
Thank you all. Before my time starts, if I may, I don't know if our elder abused people are still here. I'm a certified family home. That's not why I'm here tonight. For my daughter, who is 30 and has autism and diabetes and some other medical anomalies. And so I respect what you do. I know it's hard. It's real hard to look out for someone. And there's a lot of people that take advantage. So I'm not one of them. But I appreciate, and I'm glad I'm here on a night when you're
Lisa,
honoring.
as you start, go ahead and share your address.
Yes, so I am Lisa Potts. I live at 8 North Canyon Street, and I'm here tonight, I'm going to try to go fast, to discuss the speed limit on my street, which is North Canyon Street, between Lone Star and High Streets. It's a short run, about 18 to 20 houses. I moved there about 2.5 years ago. I have a beautiful home. I take care of it every day. I take care of my neighbors' yards. Today I cut my back neighbor. Yesterday I cut my side neighbor. I'm a good neighbor, and I don't mind telling you that. But I'm disabled. I wobble slowly, as you might have seen there, and as does my daughter. She's 30, that I talked about. And I also have an adult son who is visually impaired. He is legally blind and will be completely within the next 5 years if the doctors are correct, and I hope they're wrong. Both of them are scared to death to walk across the street, to walk our dog, Luna, on a leash, of course, go to a neighbor across the street. We are 2 houses in off of Lone Star, and I can sometimes not even get to the middle of the street without somebody coming around the corner and at a high rate of speed and threatening my safety and my kids and my pets' safety. I have a boat. I love to fish. I'm from South Florida originally, and I like to fish, and to try to back my trailer and my boat into my driveway is precarious, to say the least, on any given day, because people are rounding that corner at high speeds. I recognized right away that we had some issues on that street when I moved in. I reached out to the mayor's office, thank you, Madam Mayor, the street department, the police department. I even had a couple officers come over and view what I was experiencing. They too were shocked at what was going on. I was able to get a speed study. My apologies, this speed study, and I will get each of you that this week. I'm not going to bother you with it tonight, but I will get each of you that. It is from December of '21. I'm a busy mom, and I didn't even mention my daughter that has epilepsy and multiple sclerosis. So things get in the way. But I'm finally fed up with the high rate of speed that goes on North Canyon Street. I initially requested the study, and there was a nice lady that, and if you'll entertain me, I won't go too much longer, who said, be careful what you wish for. If 85% of on the speed study, if your speed limit, which is 35 on my street, goes at 40, if 85% goes at 40, you risk raising that speed limit to 40, which I'm not sure how that happened. So I had the speed.
Time.
Yes, ma'am. If you just give me the same respect you gave the previous gentleman. I will note that on either side of me, west and east, there are streets that one is marked 20 miles an hour, the others are not marked, which means it falls back to Nampa Ordinance 4247 of 20 miles per hour. The speed study, which you all will get, shows not a lot of speeders at 35. However, the maximum was 43 miles an hour. 43 miles an hour. Now, I'd ask any of you who have children or pets if you would like someone coming by your house at 43 miles an hour. And that was just coming from Lone Star. Coming from the other direction, it was 48. Just under 50. Scary, scary stuff. I don't know why we have a speed limit, but those outliers are killers. And remember that lady that I spoke about that told me the 85th percentile rule? Well, on that speed study, which each of you will get this week, I assure you, 85% of them are going between 24 and 27 miles an hour. So if what she said was true, that I risked having them raise the speed limit, then this should risk it lowering the speed limit. And if we lower the speed limit, therefore, we would have about 3,000 speeders on my street in a 6-day period. That shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening on any of our streets. So all I'm asking is that I'm going to get you the stuff. I'll email it. I'll drop it at your offices, whatever we need to do. Come by for happy hour. I have a beautiful house on Canyon Street. I dare to say it's probably the best one on the block. I am a good neighbor. Come by, have a beverage, and witness what goes by my house every day. And then let's see if we can fund those gentlemen right there with a little gun we call a radar gun that will fund the police department to get these speed limits down.
Lisa, thank you so much.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your detail.
Thank you.
And Crystal is at the back of the room. Crystal's over our Streets and Traffic Division.
I probably talked to her.
Yeah.
A couple years ago.
Her.
I appreciate it. And again, thank you to our elder abuse people. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Okay, so that concludes our public forum. We do have 2 people that had signed up, and Mike, you are one of them, but it's actually for a public hearing, so you'll speak during the public hearing. And then the other person is also?
Yes.
Okay, public hearing. So there is not an agency and commission report, but we do have staff communications, and we're already about 15 minutes late. We're going to be a little later because we have to get through a couple of agenda items first. So we're going to start with staff communications very quickly, and then we'll move on to, we're going to get through business item 1, 2, and 3 before we step into public hearings.
Mayor, Council, I'll be quick on this one. So I just wanted to update the council on the efforts on some downtown planning. There's a 9-block section of downtown that Keller and Associates, if you want to come on up, is helping us with some concepts of trying to get some projects put together that we could bid and construct. So I'm going to have Nathan describe this a little bit more. Go ahead, Nathan. Nathan Cleaver, he's a Keller consultant, but also on our Board of Appraisers.
Good evening, Council. Just quickly, so this is the study that's being commissioned by Compass and the city as well as a combined project. It has 2 areas that we're looking at, First Street between 12th and 14th, and then Front Street on the same 12th and 14th. The image that's before you is a plan view of a concept to improve 12th to 13th on the top to turn it into a pedestrian mall, where we would limit access to commercial vehicles in, let's say, the morning hours, and reconstruct the entire roadway as similar to what you'd see in downtown Boise on Main Street. As you go to the 13th and 14th to the right, and it just shows repaving and keeping the roadway in its current configuration. Also, downtown is lacking ADA facilities at all curb ramps, and repairing of those is shown in this figure as well. Next exhibit, I think we have an aerial or a rendering of the concept. Oh, that's it right there. To install more trees, and then as you go further to closer to 12th, to widen those sidewalks as well and rebuild the roadway. The asphalt that's existing there is completely spalled and is at the end of its service life plus 20 years. Okay. Next street. The next street is Front Street. This is on the left there, you can see the train depot, the museum, and on the right is Lloyd Square. You may be aware that the city has won a grant for to build a pedestrian overpass over the railroad, and the placement of that is a part of this study of how do we ramp down from a pedestrian overpass that's 23, 26 feet tall at the property line and trying to get it a ramp down that's ADA accessible. And if you go to the, okay. So first, Front Street between 12th and 13th is shown. The city leases these lots. The recommendations are to construct an 8-foot sidewalk on the north side of those lots, and then put those lots up to developers to construct a podium structure that would have parking to replace the leased parking stalls, and then the remaining parking would be for the developer to park for the tenants that they would have above that structure. Both of those lots are available, and there's a third lot that was not part of the study, which is the building shown on the bottom right-hand corner. That is also owned by the city, and that could potentially be drawn into a lease or a sale to a developer to develop these downtown. Okay, next page. So this is 13th to 14th, the existing conditions. We've toured this multiple times during the events that has transpired. Particularly, we have the farmers market that occurs here. And if you go to the next page, we're looking to improve are we missing the? So we're looking to change the grass into a turf, actually, to eliminate the islands. We can do a 5% ramp on the north side of the roadway if you scroll up just a tad bit. That zigzags within the grass area, that's all on UP right-of-way. And looking to add a splash park, essentially near the roadway of 14th at the far right side of the grass field. It would also turn into a pedestrian mall where we'd cut off access on Front Street between 13th and 14th. The rest of the facilities would remain, except that we're recommending that the existing Lloyd's building, and Mary, you probably know the name of that structure, I don't, to be converted over to concessions or to sales. And right now it's just an empty shell without utilities. The stage would remain, and the restroom facilities are located in the building that's adjacent to 12th. The city owns all three of those structures.
Nathan, I love the work that you've done. This is a very fast overview. And so I'd have to look in the packet if that other picture's in there. I don't remember, but I would love to have a little bit more discussion around this. And you know what? And we have not had a chance to get this to council yet, but we did a citizen survey. We had the largest response we've ever had, 2,400 respondents. We asked a new question this year, and that question came back that one of the highest priorities of our citizens is the revitalization of downtown. The work that you're doing, the recommendations that you're bringing forward are excellent recommendations. And so hopefully we can really push this out to the citizens and get some feedback as a city to say yes, because it's a big change, but it's pretty exciting to think about the various recommendations. What he didn't have time to show you is all of it, right? There's different levels of recommendations, and so you've done a great job.
And Madam Mayor, our next steps are to go to the public, plan on presenting at a farmer's market so we can hear from the people that attend, and also on a Thursday night, downtown Thursday night setup as well.
That is great. Council, do you have any questions, comments? Nothing right now. Thank you, Nathan. Great work. I really appreciate, Nathan, I appreciate his presence on the Board of Appraisers because he lives here. And I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Tom, thank you. So the first new business item, actually, we can push that until after public hearings because that isn't time sensitive. We don't have someone sitting in the audience, if that is okay with council.
Mayor Kling, could we take just a second, if you wouldn't mind? We have some Boy Scouts here with us, and I wonder if we just take a minute just to say hello and introduce themselves to us.
Hi, guys. Come on forward real quickly. Tell us what you're doing here. No, thank you. I had not noticed them out there, so thank you. Thank you for sharing your name and introducing yourself and letting us know what you're up to tonight.
My name is Brandon Beeson.
Hi, Brandon. Are you working on a project?
Merit badge.
Yes.
So I'm Kenny Beeson, Scoutmaster, helping him out. We're just here to observe. He's learning how the community works.
Good. Well, you picked a good night. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Thank you.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Mayor, what
Thank
troop,
you. Yes.
what troop are you from?
Troop 116.
Thank you.
We meet at South Nampa.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Victor, for catching
You're welcome,
that.
Mayor.
Appreciate it. So we're going to move to action item 8.2, and it is an action item. This is to authorize funding to the Nampa Family Justice Center for the City of Nampa's opioid settlement funds for 1 year, and it's in the amount of $27,250 to provide education and support to victims of abuse battling drug addiction. And the reason I wanted to get this done is while Jeannie is here so that we could have some discussion if there's any questions regarding it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 8.3 is an action item. This is the appointment of Anthony Oxen to a 2-year term, William Roman to a 3-year term, and Jacob Allen to a 4-year term on the Board of Appraisers. This is all in your packet, and we did have on the consent agenda another reoccurring, but a couple of these are in the audience that I'll recognize in just a minute.
So moved, Mayor. My only question was Jacob, of course, but I'm just, Jacob worked for the city for years. So anyway, their resumes were amazing, so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Are they able to introduce themselves? We
Yes,
got
so
two
go
of them
ahead and
over
come
there.
forward if you don't mind. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Give us your name, and is Jacob here? I don't
He's not.
see- He's not here tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Bill Vroman, and I've lived in Nampa about 4 years, 56-year resident of Idaho, so
Good for you.
retired and felt like this would be something fun to do, and maybe, so.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. We appreciate it.
My name's Anthony Oxen. I go by Tony.
Tony.
And I've been involved in county government for 20 years and a private contractor for 20 years. And I've just liked doing things, and this is an opportunity I'm looking forward to.
Thank you both for your willingness to serve. We greatly appreciate it. And you're joining some other great community citizens that are are there just to serve. And so you'll be joining a great team, and we appreciate your willingness.
Thank you.
Thank you so
for our
much.
support to approve this.
Thank you. At this time, I think that all other new business items can pause until after public hearings. So we will go ahead and move over to the public hearing section of our agenda. And our first public hearing is an action item. It's 9.1 on the agenda. This is annexation and zoning to RS 8.5, single-family residential zoning district, and a potential development agreement on a .99 acre parcel at 2303 Pascal Lane for Rick Bergman. The original concept is to split one lot into two lots for construction of single-family residences. Is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Go ahead and give us your name and address.
Honor Mayor, Council, as you well defined, that we would like to split the property lot. We won't take much of your time. We're both.
And your name again? Are you Rick?
Yes, I am Rick. Rick
And your
Bergman, lived
address?
at 17393 North Midsummers Lane here in Nampa.
Okay, thank you.
My wife and I are both retired civil servants here from Nampa, and so we won't take much of your time. We know how valuable your time is, and like you said earlier, we do request to be annexed into the city so we can divide this lot in order to sell one portion and keep one portion for ourselves. And that's it in a nutshell.
Well, I'm sorry, we're just trying, we didn't give you enough time on the clock, and obviously you were faster even in your limited time on the clock, so we just wanted to make sure you had enough time to talk, so.
It's pretty simple what we want to do. It's just annexation so we can split, because the rural will not split under 2 acres, and we're, as you said, .99 acres, so we have to be annexed into the city in order to split, so we can sell a portion and keep a portion for ourselves.
That's great. Council, do you have any questions at this time? So we will have you come back after the public hearing. It's just the way we do it. So we'll move from you to staff report to public hearings, and then we will give you an opportunity to come back and answer any questions that have come up during this proceedings.
Okay.
So we'll have you back.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Parker.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll make this brief. Parker Bodley, Planning and Zoning Department. This is just annexation and zoning. Should it be approved, then we'll go through the lot split process to split it into 2 separate lots. It's an infill property, enclave surrounded by city-zoned properties. Staff finds that the proposed RS 8.5 zoning is consistent with the medium density designation here. Not really any concerns. It matches the single-family detached dwellings in the area. And we support infill development, which this is would be proposing should the empty lot be developed in the future. So lot size is an RS 8.5. Minimum is 8,500. Max is 17,000. The proposed lot, I'll show you the record of survey here in a minute. The setbacks, as we've discussed before, 5 feet side and rear setbacks, 15 foot to the living portion from the front, 20 feet to the garage. The record of surveys here, you can see the house on parcel 2 that will remain, and then parcel 1 is the parcel that they'll be splitting off, about 12,000 square feet. There will be some right-of-way dedication here. No access will be allowed on Greenhurst, so they'll take access from Pasco. Really not much else to present here. The conditions of approval are in the staff report and a potential motion there for you, and I'll stand for any questions.
Mayor Queen.
Yes.
So Parker, I was looking at the lot lines. Originally, I thought it would be right down the middle, but it's not. It's an offset. So is it the intention to keep parcel 2 intact with the home that's already on it? Is that the intent?
I believe, as the applicant stated, that they intend to keep that house on there. Whether they live in that, I'm not sure, but the plan is to
Parcel
keep that
1
house.
doesn't have a home on it at this time.
It would
So
be a
in the
vacant lot.
future, would it be possible to split parcel 2 into 2 lots?
Mayor and councilman, in the future, they could subdivide, yes.
Okay.
So they wouldn't be able to just do a record of survey split. They would have to come in and do a full plat for it.
Thank you.
Council, do you have any other questions? Okay, Parker, thank you so much. So this is a public hearing, and this is an opportunity for the public to testify in support of or in opposition to this request. And
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up for this.
is there anyone in the audience that had intended to sign up to testify on this particular issue? Seeing no one, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back and provide any closing remarks. And you would also be welcome to actually answer the question of the councilman regarding your intent with that one parcel, just to ensure that it was answered correctly from our staff member.
Yeah, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. What Parker presented is exactly what we're seeking to do.
Okay. Council, do you have any further questions? And no further comments?
No further comments?
We're good.
All
Okay.
right, thank you.
With that, council, if there are no further questions, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Council, what is the will? Discussion or motion?
Well, I guess I'll make a motion. I think it's a good deal, it's a good plan, and that property's been vacant for quite a while on one side, so I move to approve the annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 single-family residential zoning district and potential development agreement, a 8.99 acre parcel for Rick Bergman, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Hammerfield.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. You're done. Thank you. Have a good evening. Okay, public hearing. Our second one, action item 9.2, is an action item. This is a Nampa City Code text amendment for Title 10, Chapter 22, parking to add requirements for guest parking in a townhouse development for the city of Nampa. Christy.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you can see here on the screen, Chapter 22, off-street parking and loading for townhouse parking. Per direction from City Council at a workshop in February, we were directed to add 0.5 spaces for guest parking in separate designated parking areas away from driveways and those kinds of things due to limited space in front of a townhouse-style dwelling. Staff finds that this meets state code, and these are your motions. I'll stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
Christie, remind us why we chose to go with 0.5 instead of 0.25, which is what the apartment projects require for guest parking.
I actually wasn't at the workshop,
Oh,
so I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I was not part of the conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe Rodney can help answer that question. I don't know.
that's why, I was just wondering why the distinction. It seems counterintuitive to me that we would require more for a townhouse development where you have lot lines as opposed to apartment buildings where it's either all one lot or less lots.
I think that has to do with the fact that we're analyzing the apartments based on the number of bedrooms that are in the apartments. So they have to be broken out by 1 bedroom versus 2 bedroom versus 3 bedroom. And so then we just did a quarter per unit, because if it's a studio apartment or a single bedroom, you don't need the half a space.
So in this case, would you be looking at potentially parking spaces that are straddling property lines? I mean, when you start looking at how those lot lines are developed to separate the townhouses, it seems more problematic to me than an apartment project would.
So they wouldn't be designated parking spaces for a unit? They'd just be public parking spaces?
Would it
So it'd
be a separate lot?
parking area.
Would it be a separate common lot?
Yes.
Okay. What about the drive lane to get to that common lot? Is it meant to be on its own lot as well?
It would depend on how they want to subdivide it out. They could do it that way and then have a shared maintenance agreement.
I know that's how Meridian does it. They have a separate drive lane, and then you have a limit on how many buildings you can have accessing off of that private lane, in a sense. It
Yep,
just makes
that's-
it a little bit more difficult from the standpoint of the developer to meet all the requirements.
Yeah, Councilman Haverfield, that is how we would anticipate doing it, would be putting it under a shared maintenance agreement with all of that being part
Separate
of the
lot.
management company, HOA, however it was that they decided that they wanted that development to look.
What about the common open area? Is that on its own lot too then, under this premise, or not?
In a subdivision, common areas are under their own
lot.
maintenance agreement for HOA, yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is a public hearing, and
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up for this item.
so is there anyone here that would like to testify on this particular item? Okay, seeing no one, does anyone have any additional questions? I think, are we done?
Mayor,
Yes.
just for clarification then, was it 0.5 per building? Is that what it was?
Per unit.
Per unit?
Per dwelling unit.
Per
yeah.
dwelling unit, okay. Regardless of the number of bedrooms?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, council discussion.
This is yours.
That's true, this was yours.
Yeah, like bring on the parking.
Would you like to make a motion?
When are you going to require parking structures in these developments? 'Cause that's coming next.
It may be next. I'm working on some other things, but okay. I'm going to make a motion then to approve the Title 10 Planning and Zoning Chapter 22 parking with the staff proposed findings as presented in the staff report, and directed by Planning and Zoning Director of the City Attorney to draft the ordinance of the reading at the future council meeting for the City of Nampa.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes?
Angula.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Sorry.
The next public hearing is action item 9.3. This is the Nampa City Code text amendment for Title 10, Chapter 31, specific area plans, and Chapter 34, design review in regards to exceptions for chain link fencing around school properties for safety purposes. This is for the City of Nampa. And Christy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the action requested is to change the 4 sections that I have listed here in the specific area plan for the Ustick Business District and the Waterways District, and then in the design review code for commercial and industrial projects. So due to the concern for safety and the security of school children and officers who may be responding to an emergency, it's been determined that chain link may be more appropriate fencing material for schoolyards. So if they're in a BC zone or an IL zone or something like that, they would be required to meet design review standards in today's code, which would not be it would be a non-vision fence, which actually puts everybody in worse harm's way, potentially. So we've added these exceptions to this, the 4 sections that we mentioned. Schoolyards may be fenced with chain link where appropriate to provide for student safety. The chain link fence may be built up to 6 feet high to enclose the area not defined as the front yard. Fencing proposed in this area defined as the front yard shall meet the standards listed in our design review code, so it would be a non-vision fence. Same thing for the commercial, multifamily, and industrial zones. These are the proposed findings, and these are your motions. I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Christy. Are there any questions?
Just going to make a comment about serpentine wire along the top.
You keeping them in or you keeping them out?
Yeah, whichever way.
It's all for safety.
Okay, Christy, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is a public hearing, and
Madam Mayor, we do have one person signed up. It's Mike Mussel.
Good evening, Mike. Thank you for giving us your address. We've got your name, so thank you for being here.
Mike Mussel, 316 11th Avenue South. Is tonight anything to do with the container, or is it just about the fencing? Because I thought they were together.
I think this is just, Christy, I'd let you answer that, but I believe this is just the fencing.
Yes, this is code change just for fencing. This has nothing to do with the project that he's referencing.
So just for clarity, this is actually not about a specific project or a specific location. This is, and we thank you to raising the awareness of the issue. We're changing our code for schools so that it alleviates the chain link fencing issue, if I can talk. But this has nothing to do with the other piece of that. It's very specific to a general code change in our code.
He's here for the container. He represents the school.
Oh.
Can I mention one thing?
Yes.
It has something to do with the chain link fence.
Yes.
This school was one of the original property owners there in the Broadmoor Country Club area, and it was going to be used for business and not industrial. It all got changed to industrial. They got consumed. And yes, their fence, it's chain link, and there was some issues with that. It's tied in with a container, so if you come across a container later, I'll be happy to visit about it. But they did it with excellence. It's 200 and some feet off of the main area. All the other containers around the area are exposed, even though they're behind a short fence. Most of them are. I'm just asking for mercy on these guys, and there's a simple fix. It's just put 6-foot arborvitaes. Save the school the hassle. They got plenty of things to worry about, and they've already got the sprinklers there, and it's tucked away next to a dumpster enclosure. There's no need to hassle them about this, and I'm hoping if it comes up that you have mercy on the school, allow them to just fence around it. It's got 60-foot trees all the way around, and it's tucked in a nice spot. Even though they have 2 addresses, it's considered the front yard, which really isn't the front yard, it's the side. Their main campus interest is on the front, but thank you for your time.
Mike, thank you. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else signed up?
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone else signed up.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this issue that has not signed up? Yes, you may. Thank you for sharing your name and address.
Yeah, Edward Longfield, and I'm the executive director for Idaho Arts Charter School. I live at 12090 West Hidden Lake Street. As far as the fence, I too support that. I know that school safety is an important issue, especially today. And the fencing is part of our strategy to keep kids safe. I won't reveal all of our strategies, but it's a significant one. And having the ability to look through the chain link helps quite a bit. So I hope that you don't make us change the fence or make it where we can't see through it. So thank you for your time and appreciate your service. And we'll have kids come sing to you if you help us out here.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anyone else that had intended to testify this evening? Seeing none, are there any additional questions for Christy? Yes.
Just a clarification, I just asked our legal counsel if we needed to amend the words to say allowing exceptions for chain link fencing, because that's really what we're talking about. It's not requiring chain link fencing, it's just allowing that to be used, correct? That's the
correct.
intent of the motion.
That's correct.
Okay. So he said it's fine as it's written.
Okay, good. Are there any additional questions before we close public hearing?
Mayor, maybe really quick, just to ask police and fire, do you guys support that decision for public safety reasons to have that? Yes. Okay.
Okay, that answer is yes, they support it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So what is the will of the council on this issue? Let's stand for discussion or a motion.
I think Darrell wanted to electrify.
You want to go?
Didn't he?
Go for it, man.
Okay. I support the schools and support the safety, especially with the chain link fence. It's tough when you see on one side and it's all solid and you don't know who's coming on the other side. Good point. Thank you. So I move to approve the changes to the Nampa City Code text amendment for Title 10, Chapter 31, Specific Area Plans, and Chapter 34, Design Review, in regards to exception for the chain link fencing around school properties for safety purposes for the city of Nampa. And that's it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner.
Yes.
Reynolds. Haverfield.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Before we move to the next item, I just want to say thank you for the testimony. We appreciate it. The reason this came forward was because of the discussion, so thank you for that, because it's a permanent change to ensure. And then I know that Patrick was here. He's just stepped aside. You would be certainly welcome to visit with him regarding the other issue, and hopefully we can keep moving forward, so thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is action item 9.4. This is a public hearing for the review and approval of proposed ordinance amendments to Nampa City Code, including Title II, Chapter 17, and Title III, Chapter 7, and resolutions to adopt a revised streets impact fee improvement plan and to approve an annual inflationary increase for current development impact fees. And Patrick Sullivan, that was good timing to get back. You're on.
Mayor and Council, sorry, I had to take a quick call. So anyway, I'll walk you through. Let me share my screen and have a brief presentation for you.
And Council, I know that you've seen your packet. We're going to have 4 different action items underneath one public hearing, so he'll cover it all. And then you're welcome to ask questions, but when it gets done, then we'll come back to the 4 different action items.
Let's see if this works. There we go. So to give a little background, both on March 8th and then again on May 18th, the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee met to review proposed ordinance changes and resolutions for revisions to the Streets Capital Improvement Plan and for annual inflationary adjustment for development impact fees. And then I'll run through the 4 action items briefly, and then I'm going to have a little bit longer presentation on the annual inflationary increase so that we can get to the bottom of that. And then I'll restate the 4 motions. So action item 1 is we found a need to move the requirements for the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee members, how many members are on the committee, how they're selected, how they're approved by council. We wanted to move it outside of the Development Impact Fee chapter in ordinance because everything that we do in that ordinance has to come before you as a public hearing. And we wanted to standardize it like all of the other boards and commissions and put it into Title II and form a new Chapter 17 and basically move everything over there with one change. So the one change would be to increase the membership from 2 to 4 years, and the benefit of that is it would retain institutional knowledge for the overall committee because we don't change impact fees every year, and it's fairly dull for about 2 or 3 years, and then we have a big push and have several meetings to go over new impact fee reports. So that's the first item. The second item is removing, is going back to Title III, Chapter 7, and remove all those requirements for committee membership and appointments, and then also change the annual fee increase effective date from January 1st to July 1st, and then change the basis for calculating that fee to a 12-month period ending on March 31st of the same year as the increase. This removes the de facto membership requirements from Title III, Chapter 7, changes the effective date from January 1st to July 1st for the annual inflation adjustment, and defines a 12-month period to base the annual inflation adjustment on. And we'll get to the particulars of that in a moment. Action item 3 is a resolution to adopt a revised streets capital improvement plan dated May 26th of 2023. These revisions to the CIP are because when we did our annual update in March for the DFAC committee, we identified that there was some phasing of projects and some splitting of larger projects into smaller projects, and then also the calculations on how much impact fee to allocate for each project within that 10-year list of streets projects had changed a little bit. And it was enough substantive change that we felt it necessary to bring it back to you and replace the 10-year streets project list in the ordinance itself so that it matched up, and then also that you would be able to review it and approve it. And that was also recommended by DFAC in March. Let's see. And number 4 is approval of a resolution approving an 2023 annual inflationary increase to the current adopted development impact fees. This includes a 3.43% increase to police, parks, and fire fees, and a 17.36% increase to streets, wastewater, water, and pressurized irrigation fees, and the effective date would be July 1st, 2023. So what is this annual fee increase? Last February of 2022, Council adopted into ordinance based on recommendations from Development Impact Fee Committee that year to year, we entertain raising fees based on the last year's inflation factor, because the costs of capital improvements are raising each year, and we didn't want to under-collect fees over time, and we didn't want to have to do a separate report every year to change those fees. So the 3.43 increase is from the Engineering News Record Construction Cost Index, which is a nationally recognized cost index that is used for estimating mostly building and site construction projects. And the 17.36 annual increase that's proposed is based on the Producer's Price Index West. It's most applicable to heavy construction, streets, and utilities. It's specific to our regional costs. And Council recently approved the PPI West increase to irrigation rates, so it's also used for utility rates as well. So this, I included in your packet the adopted language of the annual inflationary adjustment, and this is just how it is stated in the ordinance currently. And then we also talked just briefly about the construction cost index, where the CCI, or construction cost index, is the industry standard for site and building construction. Market costs, where the producer price index is basically more in line with the larger projects, the utility projects, the streets projects. So delving into why the PPI is so high, and it's reflected in a lot of the projects that our Public Works Department has bid over the past couple of years, is they've seen inflation over 5 years in the cost of contracts for streets projects and for utility projects. The Idaho Transportation Department reports a 51% increase in liquid asphalt costs and 129% PVC pipe cost increase. So you can see over time from 2018 to 2023 on these charts, we've seen quite an uptick both in asphalt and in pipe increase. And then signalization costs and right-of-way design and construction costs have increased substantially from 2018. In 2018, there was about a $1 million average for signal. In 2023, it's about 3 times that much at $3 million. So a 300% increase in 5 years, which is a 60% increase per year. And it's basically the cost of land, steel, wire, and asphalt, and conduit all contribute to both the land costs and the material costs for these projects. So that brings us to the motions of approval, and I will stand for any questions on any parts of these 4 motions.
Patrick, thank you so much. I appreciate that presentation. I have a question, but council, do you have any questions?
Mayor, I do really quick. We're using the PPI West report. What does the PPI report say should be the increase?
Mayor and Councilman Angela, I would have to ask Tom Points to weigh in on that. We had Public Works pull the PPI for us for this, and he can talk a little bit more to that.
Thank you.
Mayor, Councilor Jangula. So the reason that we looked at the west, I didn't calculate anything in a different region because that was one of the things that we want to try to capture is what's the western cost of doing business. It is actually cheaper in other parts of the United States, but that's why it's we wanted the west index. So I don't know what the other indexes like on the East Coast or Midwest are, for example.
Yeah, I have issues with the West report just because it lumps us in with these other other states and cities in California, Washington, Oregon, where it's going to potentially cost more to do than what it would be here. I think we would fall more in line with Midwest pricing probably. So I would just be curious what the whole PPI says.
Yeah, I can try to look it up while we're talking here and see if I can find something for you.
Okay, thank you.
I guess I might ask the question, why do you think we would fall in line with the Midwest versus the West?
Well, I'm just thinking on a general level, doing business or anything that we're doing in California is going to cost more than it's going to cost here, potentially, I would think, I'm assuming, but I don't know, and that's why I want to know what just the overall PPI says.
So Mayor, follow up. So the West, how far east would the West be considered statewide? Wyoming, Montana, Utah? Those are not considered Midwest states.
Right. So
do you have any idea what's the
I think it's
configuration?
Definitely California, Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Nevada, and I'll have to look. I don't know if it has Wyoming and Montana in there.
My point there for Councilwoman Jangala is I would think if it would include Montana, Wyoming, and Utah, then it would have, it would be pretty
Mayor,
fair
Councilman, the West region covers Alaska, Arizona, California, Colorado, Hawaii, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming.
Okay,
thank you.
So it's quite vast.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I think, and not meaning to, and Tom, stay there because I'm going to have a question for you, but with the tremendous growth that we have, unfortunately, our costs are high. That's the challenge we're facing because of the competition, because of the work. But so I noticed that the cost, and I've got to ask this just because, the roundabout costs, the greatest escalation appears to be in a signal cost. Are the roundabout costs escalating at that level? Because you still have
Yes.
acquisition, but they are similar?
Yep. So we're seeing $3 million on either a signal or roundabout in general.
So
And
overall?
Some of them are just very specific on the site, like the one at Idaho Center and Cherry cost us almost $8 million because we had to build a pipe to expand the pipe out so we could build the roundabout on top of the irrigation canal. So, and then there was had to buy an entire house out as well. So it really varies, but average is about $3 million. That's what we.
So Mayor, follow up on that. So, but what we've been told before is the signals, if they're about even in original costs, but the signals are costing more for future maintenance. Is that still the?
Correct, Councilor Brunner, yeah.
Okay,
Because they have all the power.
Councilman Haverfield heard that also. Okay.
It's all the power that you pay for the signals and all the maintenance you have to do on the timing and all that. That adds up.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
I have one for Tom. Tom, in action item number 4, it says that there's the 3.43% increase to police, parks, and fire fees, and a 17.36 increase to streets, water, wastewater, pressurized irrigation. Now, does that mean that every year that will automatically go into effect? Or does the council still have the ability to choose a different amount?
Mayor and Councilman Rodriguez, I can answer that. The way the ordinance is written is DFAC would review every year whether or not to go forward with an annual increase and then recommend that increase each year. The numbers, the percentage of inflation will change year over year, whether the numbers go up or go down. We've seen some adjustment. When we took this to DFAC back in March, we used numbers that were from January to January instead of March to April, and it was almost 20%. And so just moving the time period in which we calculated that 17.36 increase, it had gone down 2 1/3 points just over a 3-month period. And we also saw we were almost 5% under the CPI or the CCI. And so we came down probably almost 2 points on that, just because we're seeing inflation tracking. And I would, I don't have a crystal ball, but the trend seems to be that we hit a peak of inflation. Now it's going to be adjusted. So if we brought numbers to you next year, I would imagine they would be significantly less.
So I would just want to make, so for clarity, the motion is for a one-time increase.
Yeah.
It is not for a repeated increase. This is for one time. So excuse me, I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Hubbard.
Okay, so all of these state an annual increase that we're approving and a rate that's there, that was my question that I was going to get from Todd, and I'm not sure if Joe is ready to answer the question of how we can approve an annual increase which binds future councils
And
to
we're
a
not.
net increase.
So what we did was we changed the language and we added the word 2023. So this is it's an annual inflationary increase, but this is for 2023 only.
So why
So it is not a reoccurring, it's a one-time for 2023.
I would feel more comfortable if annual wasn't in a part of the motion, because that just, the connotation there is what confused me before, and that's why I asked for the clarification, which now you just gave, not legal. So that was my concern is, again, because once we establish that baseline, next year has a new baseline. Each year it's just compounding, especially with the 17.3% increase. That's massive, even though it might be minor numbers, but it's a massive increase. That I'm not sure why we're looking at these changes as far as through the appointments, as far as in the committee, if they're not meeting annually, but I guess you still are. So that was my concern as far as the annual. And then what happens if there is a deflation? Because that can happen with a change in administration at the White House, as simple as going back to drilling in the United States versus offshore, back to the gold standard. There's things that could happen that would create a deflationary move, which would be beneficial to the consumers. Obviously, we're not seeing that yet because of the administration that's back there, but that's where my concerns were.
So I guess I have a question. From a legal perspective, you could say approving a one-time 2023, or you could say a 2023 inflationary increase and just strike the word annual. I know the reason why I think annual inflationary increase is in there, it just has to do with the fact that there is an annual review of of an inflationary increase. And this is part of that annual review that will take place every year. And if it goes down, which is great, and we hope it does. So I'm not sure how we would word it. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, you're exactly right. That's what happens. The work never ends with the committee, including the review of this and determine if it's an accurate indication of the appropriate inflationary index to put on it. And it doesn't raise any issues with binding future council. You do that all the time with any ordinance that you pass. That's more focused on expenditures of monies as opposed to the receipt. this is trying to capture. So you can leave the word annual, understanding that it's not a commitment, that this is binding in perpetuity. It can be changed and will probably be reviewed annually forever.
Mayor, clarification. So are we talking about 23, 24 fiscal year, or are we talking, when you say 23, because we only have 6 months left in 23. So we're not talking about calendar year, we're talking about a fiscal year.
Well, we're changing the date to an effective date of July 1. So this would be in place from this July 1 until next July 1.
That's my point, is it goes into 24 when you're saying
does.
2023.
Right.
I just want to make sure we're clear, and
Yeah.
anyone that reads that is clear on that.
Yeah.
And Mayor, I wanted to point out a couple things that came up. One is it would be no different than when you adopt any type of fee increase, say our building permitting fees, but we change those infrequently, that type of thing. So, but you're still binding it through ordinance. The other thing I wanted to address is Councilman Haverfield's comment that it would go up or down. The way it's written in ordinance is that we would adjust it for this year's inflation, and then we would take another look at it, but the math would be additive. We wouldn't then take the old baseline and then apply a different number to it. We would take the new baseline created by this new fee increase, and then next year, if we said, hey, it's only going to be 3% for one, and maybe it's down around 10 for the other, it would add on to whatever this change, the change that you're approving now. So it is additive throughout the year.
It's
right?
baseline budgeting.
It's
that's what I'm
baseline
saying.
budgeting, yes. I just wanted to clarify because there was some questions about that.
Right, and that was where my concern was, if we didn't have a control over future increases, or future council members didn't have control over the rate increases. Maybe there's a different posture, obviously, that we're taking here a little bit from what has already been accepted practice. So I'm just wondering why the need to change the language to make it confusing, because I don't want to open up a door for future council members that their hands are pretty much tied to have to go with the increase. It might not be in the best interest of the city at that time. Obviously, we're talking impact fees, so it's to the developers that want to develop. It's just more costs that are going to be passed on to the consumer.
Mayor Kling, just one more comment. The way it's worded, and I agree with maybe the annual view wording, is that when I first read this, I saw that 17.36% increase to streets, wastewater, and pressurized irrigation. I recall back that we already did a 17.36% increase, and now as of July 1, there's going to be another one. But that can't be without a public hearing, correct? So that's what I took and I went, whoa, hold on. So would you clarify that?
Mayor, Councilman Rodriguez, I believe you're referencing the rates, the utility rates, and we have already processed our annual adjustment to the utility rates. This does not affect that. This is strictly for the impact fees separate.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
I should turn my mic on. Are there any other questions? Okay, so this is a public hearing. We will have the opportunity to ask a question at the conclusion of the public hearing. Do we have anyone signed up?
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up.
Okay. I do see a couple gentlemen in the audience. I see Hubert Osborne, and then I'm going to pause. Are you guys here for this particular item? No, ma'am. You're not? You're just... Oh, TDS. I'm so sorry you're having to wait. We'll get to you real quickly. I guess I see your hat right there. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. Hubert Osborne, I don't remember your address, so you'll have to give that to us.
I've been accused of making too many statements. My name's Hubert Osborne. My wife and I reside at 4199 East Switzer Way. At the risk of stepping in this conversation, Ann Westcott, in her reports before, has recommended an inflationary increase as a way to level out, and it's been increases, but rather than doing it every 5 years when you have a major study, this is a 1-year increase. It's unfortunate that we've had inflation. If you look at the price of eggs, what were they 6 months ago and what are they now? I bought a dozen for $1.99. So who is to say that next April the inflation would be less? And council has used this for garbage rates, an annual increase based on inflation. It's used for my water fees, which went up 19.9% this year. So council has had no problem with it this in the past, but this is new for impact fees. And I would remind you that people buying the houses and the buildings are the ones paying this. It is the developer actually writes the check, but he just adds that on to the cost of his building. I've probably said enough, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to confuse you further.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Haverfield.
Just for Mr. Osborne, not all votes are unanimous. So when you lump the council as all either behind something or not behind something, it's just not all votes are unanimous, just so you know. You've been at the meetings, you saw the result of some of the votes for rate increases especially. So just wanted to get that clarification out there.
Yes, I remember one in particular. You voted the way I wanted you to, so.
Thank you, Hubert.
Once in a while.
You let into that one.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, Hubert.
Is there anyone else that had intended to testify this evening? So no further testimony? Okay. This is an opportunity before we close public hearing. Do you have any further questions for Patrick? Any questions? Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so we have a few action items ahead of us this evening. Patrick, did you have any closing comments?
I don't, Mayor.
Okay.
There's no other questions. It's fairly straightforward. I would just, after hearing some of the discussion, we probably just need to take the annual inflationary or the annual out of that, just have the 2023 inflationary increase, just to clarify it.
Okay, get rid of the word
For whoever
annual.
reads that, so.
Okay. Okay.
So Mayor, on making these motions, do we have, I mean, I realize it's not that long, but do we have to read the whole thing, or can we just say, move to approve action item 1, or do you want the whole, everything read?
Let me ask a quick question. Because we have a first reading of ordinance, can we do some of these in one motion, or do we need to go ahead and go through these and then go through, or can we just go ahead and, sometimes we do a public hearing and then we read the ordinance. In this case, since we have several, can we go ahead and just read the ordinance and then approve it as stated
Yes. you
in
can.
one action? Okay.
But one question that came up on that comment, if it's a different thing, if the word annual comes out, is the intent that it be an increase for 1 year and then without further action, it automatically resets back and it's removed? Because that's not been the practice? Or is it's a one-time, just to be clear with the motion, that if it's approved, that rate isn't applied for a singular year, but it doesn't necessarily adjust again until further action? That make sense?
It does make sense, and that is the intent, that it does not remove it, but it does not repeat another annual increase at the same amount. It is reviewed, so this is a one-time action for an increase. I think when we get down to that one, that's a resolution versus the ordinance. So with the first two action items are actually a reading of ordinance.
They're
The next
two separate ordinances, Mayor.
Correct, and so
And
they're.
then two separate resolutions.
Right. So we will be going, right.
I think the best thing to do would actually be take out the 2023 and annual out of action item 4 and just approve a resolution approving an inflationary increase to current, because that way it doesn't sunset it, and it's a one-time increase. And those two reference words would help that out, I think.
Action item 2 as well,
Yeah.
as basis of annual inflation instead of basis of one-time inflation adjustment.
So Mayor Patrick, does one time need to be verbiaged in there?
It wouldn't need to be, I don't believe, Joe, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you just take out 2023 and annual out of action item 4, and you take annual out of action item number 2. And that would clean it up.
And then action item number 2, that is an ordinance, but that is actually, does need to stay because it's changing
Yes,
the
it is.
basis
Yes.
of annual inflation adjustment to a 12-month period ending on March 31st of the same year as the increase. So that language would stay the same because it does not impact action item number 4. So with that then, what I'd like to do is if it is pleasing to the council, we would actually read the action item here is the first reading of ordinance and approval of a summary of publication to move the DFAC committee membership requirements and appointments from Title III, Chapter 7 Development Impact Fees to a new chapter, Title II, Chapter 17 Development Impact Advisory Committee, and to increase the member term from 2 to 4 years. Shar will read this ordinance, and then it is requested to pass under suspension of rules if it so meets the will of the council.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, creating Title II, Chapter 17 of the Nampa City Code pertaining to the appointment, membership requirements, organization, meetings, powers and duties of the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee, providing for severability, allowing for a summary of the ordinance to be published, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
So move under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The next action item is the first reading of ordinance amending Title III, Chapter 7 by removing the requirements for committee membership and appointments, change of the annual fee increase effective date from January 1st to July 1st, and to change the basis of the annual inflation adjustment to a 12-month period ending March 31st of the same year as the increase, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, amending Title III, Chapter 7 of the Nampa City Code pertaining to the recodification of the requirements for the Development Impact Fee Advisory Committee to Title II, Chapter 17 Code, and pertaining to annual inflationary adjustments, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Madam Mayor, I'd move this pass under the suspension of rules.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Bruner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
The next action item is to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution to adopt the revised streets capital improvement plan, which was included in our packet, dated May 26, 2023, and revisions to the CIP include changes to street projects for the phasing of work and changes in the calculation for the impact fee fund contributions to projects with multiple funding sources. The total 10-year street CIP dollar amount and associated streets impact fees do not change. Because this is a resolution, we don't have anything to read, but that is the action item.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Bruner.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So our last action item, I'll read what is here and then I'll look to council for guidance. It's to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution approving a 2023 inflationary increase to the current development impact fees, including a 3.43% increase to police, parks, and fire, and a 17.36% increase to streets, wastewater, water, and pressurized irrigation fees with an effective date July 1, 2023. What is the will of the council on that
Mayor,
one?
I'm just going to read the motion as it has been changed. Approval of a resolution approving an inflationary increase to current development impact fees, including a 3.43% increase to police, parks, and fire fees, a 17.36% increase to streets, wastewater, water, and pressurized irrigation fees with an effective date of July 1st, 2023.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion?
Mayor, do we have the other PPI numbers? That's okay. I've been trying to, and I can't locate it either, so. Okay, thanks.
Councilman Haverfield?
I appreciate the motion. I don't agree with it. I think that the increase to police and fire and parks should be more than 3.43%. And I think the increase to streets and wastewater should be less. So I would be in favor of like a 5% increase to police and a 10% increase to streets, water, and wastewater.
Thank you for that comment, and I'll turn to legal because I think I know what Joe's going to say.
Yeah, the concern being that if the increase, this isn't an increase related to the cost of the underlying, or excuse me, changes to the capital improvement plan, but to the inflationary component of it. So if there were to be a change in what's proposed, it would need to have some objective data to base the new figure on.
But we're not given any. We haven't been able to provide it.
Well, we have provided it on the PPI West and what their annual inflationary rate is, but I guess my question is, are we allowed to propose an increase greater than what was published in for the public hearing? I always know you can go down, but I didn't know that you could go up.
If you had data to support it, the public is made aware that at this hearing, you're going to consider a rate increase of some sort. So you could, if it was tethered to some data, what the new figure would be. Otherwise, you might be subject to questions that the data is not really an inflationary increase, but it's related to some other purpose, which is not what's happening, but still you need to have that underlying support if you're going to do something different than what's been presented by Public Works.
Mayor, I know this is a discussion. Councilman Haverfield, I mean, the inflationary is on supplies. So I guess I'm not quite understanding. I realize police, parks, and fire fees are more, to me, more personnel, whereas the streets, wastewater, water, and pressurized irrigation fees are because of the inflationary increase in supplies.
Are you asking me a question?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm asking for your rationale. You're lowering the what's costing us more, in my opinion, and then you want to increase police, parks, and fire fees.
We're not limited when we get into the budget season of looking at different means of helping the departments individually.
Right.
This is an inflationary change that's basically being stated, 17.3, I mean, it's just like you. I mean, it just seems like, to me, that seems like a large number.
Oh, it is a large.
Percentage of increase. And when that's passed along to the development community, that's already strapped with higher costs for materials and land purchase, we're basically constricting their ability to be able to fund things, and interest rates going up. So I'm just cognizant of what the development community is already faced with, and now we're talking about increasing that even more. When I look at our increase in population, one thing that's a concern is how our police and fire are being able to protect us. So that's why that seems like a small percentage. So that's all I'm saying. I wish that could be more and the other could be less. I would support something more along those lines.
And Mayor, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I'm just, and see, my personal philosophy, I don't have a problem if growth slows down. And so if we have development that says this is too much to be in Nampa or whatever the case is, I guess I personally don't have a problem with that slowing down here for.
That's your right, philosophically. So, I have mine.
And the old saying that we've heard 1,001 times, let's have growth pay for growth. So that's my philosophy on it.
Patrick, could I ask a quick question? So when we're talking about the fee are we just rearranging? Because we may increase police, fire a little bit, decrease, but the dollar amount really stays the same. It's how we allocate internally. How much would a shift, as Councilman Haverfield has suggested? Now, it's lower overall, but when we start moving, how much goes to police? I know that that's an internal allocation, but how does that change the actual fee? Does it still equal, like, if you do 5% and 10%, that's a 15%, versus a 20.43, it's about a 21% increase. So you're reducing it by about 6% overall, but the allocation is shifting. So my question is, what changes in what's being charged to the new project?
Mayor, each one of these 7 impact fee funds have a capital improvement plan.
Correct. And I understand that's how we allocate it internally.
That's how we figure out what the total number is that we're going to be spending over 10 years. And then we figure out how many people are coming commercially and in households to pay either residential fees or commercial fees based on their impact.
So what I'm trying to figure out is what the end dollar amount, how that shifts based on this reallocation. If you see, my question is, how does the end dollar amount shift? I know that we're talking about an internal allocation shift, but how does a recommendation like this change the total dollar amount that's going to be charged?
We take the original fee chart that we have, and we just apply this percentage down the line for each fee, whether it be a wastewater impact fee or a police fee or a fire fee. We just, whether it be 3 or 5%, that's all we do. And so it just increases it for this until it's changed again.
Right. The calculation's too complex to figure out tonight is what I'm thinking.
We don't recalculate the CIP numbers. We
Correct.
take the original fees that were developed in the last report, and we just modify each fee by whatever the approved increase is.
Yeah.
But we don't go back into the math that came up with the original fee,
Right.
because that would be too complicated.
Yep.
And that's where I was driving at, as far as if we can lower the total overall annual increase to less than what it's being presented, but we can't shift one way or the other, which is you're driving at. That's kind of what my thought was. We are able to lower it, but we're not able to increase it. But I'm asking to shift, in a sense, or increase the amount going to the police and lessen the amount going to streets and wastewater. But it doesn't sound like that's a possibility. Is that correct?
Could I mention something, though? I guess my thought is, first and foremost, if we can't afford to build the streets, we've got a real problem. Because if you look at our citizen surveys, boy, those streets and congestion are number one. So these impact fees that are being paid to streets are going to fund, that's critical. And if we're not funding it, we're absorbing it out of our budget. And so if impact fees doesn't fund it, we have to pay for it from the city, which we don't have the funding to do it. The second thing that I was just thinking about, candidly, I know with police, now parks, it all, fire's different, so firewood is different than, right now, for our CIP for parks and police, if we don't increase the number of personnel out of the Gen Gov, we can't even use all the fees being collected. And right now, we don't have the funds to pay the personnel, and so we're building parks. And we could build, and with all due respect, a substation, but if we can't afford to put the people in the substation, then we can't afford to build a substation. And that's 26 positions in about 8 to 10 years. And so we could increase the one and decrease the other, but with all due respect, I think that we need to go with the recommendations, because I tell you what, when you look at what it's costing right now, and Tom, we've been talking about it, we desperately have to move forward on some certain construction projects that are our core, like with streets and wastewater and water, and it is so crazy expensive that if we don't actually capture the cost of doing the work, then it's going to put us behind as a city.
So if we're depending on impact fee dollars to pay for these things,
for growth,
and the impact fees dollars aren't paid because there isn't any development happening, So we're basically, we still have the problem, we don't have the revenue source. So I guess I'm not understanding totally where you're driving, because we don't fully depend on impact fee dollars. It's kind of bonus dollars that either come or don't come. So the message sent to the development community is we're either helping them or not helping them. We're trying to get in their way. To Councilman Bruner's point, he sees enough growth already taking place that we don't want to encourage it. Well, I don't agree with that. That's philosophically. But impact fee dollars roll over to the consumers eventually. So it's just how we want to look at how they're collected and how they're distributed. And that's why I'm saying, when we look at our overall budget, when it comes July, and we're getting a presented budget that hopefully is a balanced budget, that's easier for us to work with. Are you depending on impact fee dollars for that budget? I don't think so. They're bonus dollars that either come or don't come. We can speculate, but sometimes they don't work that way. Especially now, these days, with inflationary changes, developers are backing off and not doing as much work as they were before. We're still seeing an increase of people wanting to move into Idaho because we're a conservative state. To Natalie's point, the difference between Idaho and the West Coast is it's a conservative state versus not conservative. And so when you look at those, how they're being managed versus Idaho and more of the red states moving more inland, is there a way to look at these increases with the light of, being conservative and other conservative states working together? And again, I mean, a change in the federal, and I'm just now I'm on a soapbox, but if we were to open up drilling for oil again in the United States to be able to lower gas and diesel prices, that's going to lower the consumer prices to Hubert's point, in the stores for eggs. That's a change that could happen. Going back to the gold standard could totally flip how things are handled these days. So again, I'm questioning the process.
And Mayor, no one has a crystal ball. I would like for a call to vote and we have a second on the table.
We do have a motion and a second to authorize the mayor to sign a resolution with the increases as proposed. So, and I want to pause and give, is there anyone that hasn't spoken as a council member that would like to before roll call?
Mayor, I just want to say one thing. For future, because when I can't just easily look up this research and find it quickly, I don't like that because it doesn't feel very transparent. So next time when we're doing these, if I can just make a recommendation to either include a link or something and show both the West and the national PPI, just so that we can see both, because I don't like when it feels untransparent, and I'm all for growth funding growth, absolutely. But when these numbers are just kind of there and I can't really back it up, I really struggle with making a decision for that, so.
Thank you.
We can do that. I'll bring Heather.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we've had this question before, so
Yeah.
it's really important that we're prepared on the PPI. So, and then Councilman Reynolds, did you want to make any comments before we call for the vote?
I just wanted to make sure that the language was correct, because what we had in our packet didn't match what was on the screen. So
Right, and it is what was on the
I
screen
think
that
it
we've
was
read.
stated correctly in the motion, so.
Thank you. With that, roll call.
Jangula,
No.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Haverfield,
No.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
3 in favor, 2 opposed, motion carries.
Okay, so that is the conclusion to
Darn.
our public hearings this evening.
We don't get to get the mayor to break ties?
I know, no more time break.
We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Okay, so with that, we've been here for about 2 hours. Do we need a break, or should we just move right through? We've got quite a bit to get through, yes. Yes. Okay, so we're going to move to new business items right now. And we will move to TDS so you guys can go home. So the discussion, Tom, I think, are you bringing forward this discussion for TDS? Or Daniel, you're bringing it forward? Okay, so this is a discussion item. It is not an action item. But it is a discussion regarding the installation of It says backlot fiber, but is backyard in the easement area for TDS fiber? Thank you, Daniel.
Mayor, Council, TDS has brought forth a proposal that they go to installing their fiber optic cables in the backyards in the public utility easements that exist there. Some of the reasons that they've brought forward to us, and their representatives here, as well as one of their right-of-way people, Jared, online, to answer questions if you have any. Some of the reasoning behind that is that they are able to service both sides of the line at that point. When they're in the backyards, they can go to either house on either side of that, whereas when they're in the streets, they're running twice as much cable running in the front yards on both sides of the street. As well, some of the things that they see as benefits to it, reduces the amount of traffic disruption and those types of things that happen within the developments, as well as reducing the number of potholes that are made in our roadways, which can reduce some of the life of our roadways, even with the patches that are done. So we've been working with them on that discussion. We've been working through some of the issues that the engineering division sees, and some of the coordination with the property owners, and the ability for our locators to get in the backyards and locate. We're working through those issues with them. We have consulted with legal on what their rights are to be in those easements. Legal has confirmed that based on state and federal statutes, they are allowed to go in those easements. That's not something that we control. It's handled under the federal and state statutes. In the packet, there's a number of items that they've provided on kind of where their easements are in those rear lots and where they would plan to go. Let me get to probably one of the more questions that you guys would have. So this map here shows kind of the current plan. The green areas are areas where they have already started construction or completed construction on the front yards up against the roadways. The red areas are areas they have identified that they will be doing the rear lot or rear yard installations. And then the yellow areas they have yet to determine exactly where they'll be going, front yard or rear yard. A lot of that will likely depend on the age of the development. Some of those older developments in the square block areas of town don't have rear yard easements. They only have the alleyway, and our alleyways are currently quite well populated with utilities, so we haven't been allowing new utilities to go in them unless they're aerial on the existing lines. And so just wanted to bring that forward to you guys, give you an opportunity to know what's happening, because obviously you may get some questions from residents about this, and would stand for any questions, as well as we have TDS here to answer any questions you might have.
Mayor. And I'm not sure about the other council members, but some of the feedback that I've been given is that some of the build back, the work that's been done, supposedly they were to put it back into the condition that it was in prior to them showing up to do the work, has not been to the standard or back to a point where the homeowner's been happy at all, and the callbacks have been avoided. So, I mean, there's some negative feedback that I'm hearing already that now it just concerns me with the potential for, if there isn't full transparency so that a homeowner knows that someone's going to be in their backyard and they have animals that are free into their backyards because they're fenced, what kind of liability that they're taking on here by not making sure that, they're wanted there, I guess one thing, but this is kind of being forced on them, at least that's the opinion. So can you speak to how homeowners are being approached and the work that's being done to replace what has been dug up, to put it back into a condition that they're acceptable to them?
So I'll speak a little bit, and then I'll let Jared take over and talk to their process. We have, for the vast majority of people that we've dealt with, we have gotten them in contact with TDS, and they've been able to get a resolution that they find acceptable. I know there have been a few people that are difficult to satisfy. And we've worked with a few of those to help remediate those issues. I will say that even on city projects, when we go in, when we go in and we take pictures of everything before we're there so that we can, remediate disputes that way, so that we have photographic evidence of what it was before versus what it is now. So those are some of the things the city often does on our projects, because we have those same kind of things where we're doing roadway projects adjacent to private property, and we may get into those. TDS has set up a call center to take in those, intake those calls and track those, and that process seems to be going fairly well. I understand there are some outliers, but I think I'd let Jared speak to that more. If you're on, you'll probably have to unmute yourself, Jared.
Mayor, before we do that, let me just do a follow-up on that, because I personal experience. And when my mother, 94 years old, who cannot hardly hear, and the experience where she had flooding underneath where it was worked. And I called 3 different times, long distance, and was told that all he could do was put in a work order. So finally, after 6 weeks, that was taken care of. I couldn't run her irrigation off that one section. No indication when they were coming out, anything of that sort. They came out and fixed it in 10 minutes. Okay, so the communication was very, very poor. Now, that's one example. It just happened to be a personal example. Probably not good on their part, but that's not how you handle service. And so if we're doing backyards, front yards, side yards, I don't care where it is. But if you have to go through a broker to get something taken care of, and in this case, flooding on her driveway, mud flowing down every time she turned on that section, and I don't think she's probably the only one that had some kind of challenges. So unless these folks get that taken care of, and Jared's maybe going to respond to that, I don't want them in any part of my yard.
Well,
Okay, and they already have been. So I'm speaking if I was a citizen.
I
Okay,
understand.
and you know I'm pretty blunt on things.
Yep, and
Okay.
we have, that's why we consulted with legal. We as the city do not have any jurisdiction over the public utility easements that are there. Ultimately, that is a state and federal matter.
And Jared or whoever, I'm sure that they want to take care of these things. But if I make a phone call once, I want a response, or at least know when I'm going to get a response, not where I have to make 3 more phone calls and still be told all I can do is put in a work order. Okay? Okay. Jared, that's for you.
Yeah, totally understand the frustration there. And sorry that you had that experience. I can tell you that with irrigation specific to Idaho, it's something that has certainly, kind of caught us, I would say, off guard. We're a new entrant to the Boise area, and are just learning the ins and outs of operating in and around the density of irrigation that you all have in these markets. So from what I understand, it was an irrigation issue. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or straight to irrigation infrastructure?
Yes, it was a flooding underneath the turf that was put back in place whenever one of her areas was turned on.
Yep.
So that's just an example. I'm talking about the service and the response. That's what I'm concerned about.
Yep, totally. And we do have, as Daniel mentioned, we are building up our customer service triage system specific to education on property rights, on public utility easements, but a large part of that being that we will be moving potentially away from city utilities by going into rear lot easements. Most of that will be focused on irrigation issues, on coordinating with homeowners associations or the city to get out and locate irrigation infrastructure that previously went unlocated in front lot scenarios. So part of our move to rear lot areas is aimed at mitigating as many irrigation strikes as we can, because we find that that's really the only infrastructure in some of these PUEs. So I know I have some construction folks that are I believe in the audience tonight that might be able to speak on the escalation process of those tickets. But with the amount of tickets that we receive nationwide, unfortunately we can't handle all of them at a local level. There are gates that each ticket gets based on its priority, and a situation like you explained should be a high priority and should have been handled sooner. But we do aim to have all tickets that are emergent in nature solved within, I believe, a minimum of 24 hours. And certainly if emergency situations arise, we can involve the city, work with the city to get it cared for. But yeah, unfortunate that happened, and we are doing our best to make sure it doesn't happen in the future. Yep.
Thank you, Jared. I think Councilman, Reynolds, and then Councilman Rodriguez.
So I have personal experience with TDS as well. Communication is terrible. From showing up at home and having 6 individuals in my front yard digging that didn't speak any English at all, no communication. There was stuff strewn all over my yard. My yard was recently landscaped to the cost of several $1,000s. They still have not fixed my yard. My sprinklers are broke. And I did get a hold of, I believe, Jared, and I had to put in a work order. The guy that took the work order said, well, we'll have somebody contact you. Nobody contacted me. I was getting ready for a council meeting, in fact, and 2 trucks showed up in my front yard, and they got some bags of soil out and dumped it on my grass that was dead and got in their truck and left. And nobody ever asked me what was the matter. I have multiple issues with the yard, and communication is terrible. My neighbor's yard's the same way. I've had multiple neighbors come over and complain. And individuals that are very, very Idaho-based, Idaho way of life, they don't want you in your yard. And they start going into backyards, we're gonna have even more complaints. Our police department's gonna be overwhelmed. And I'm concerned about TDS's safety if they do that in some people's yards. I had a locate guy from TDS, or he's from Digline, but he was trying to get into my backyard. It's fenced with a 6-foot fence. And I'm like, excuse me? If you ask me, we can talk about this. But he was trying to climb over my fence. That's unacceptable. That's trespassing, as well as the amount of stuff that was strewn on my yard that was not in the right of way. That's trespassing. And I still don't have my problem resolved. And I don't want this for the citizens of Nampa at all. If I have to endure this grief, I certainly don't want my constituents to have to put up with the problems that they have caused. And I hope that they can learn some communication. And from reading this in the packet about saving them dollars to not have to bury the cable at 24 inches, that doesn't have any bearing to me at all. This is a multi-billion-dollar company, and they're for profit, and if they can afford to bury the cable at 24 inches. And I like what is in our packet that I think you put together, Daniel, about some of these items about requiring them to get written authorization for sign-off after they're done, that kind of stuff. It makes a lot of sense, and I really appreciate that being in there and looking out for people in Nampa. That makes a lot of sense. So.
Ultimately, those are things that we are working with them on. Ultimately, we do not have the authority to require that, where we do not have the jurisdiction in the public utility easements, but certainly something we are working with them on.
So I have a quick question, and I know Councilman Rodriguez is next. If you don't mind if I ask a quick question.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Thank you. My understanding is that they have the right to access the easement, but that we have the right to put some parameters on that. Am I incorrect in that? And I'm looking to legal to answer that question.
It depends on what, I'm not sure what parameters would it.
Well, a little bit like that they have authorized that they have permission to access the private property of a backyard in written permission. My computer closed, so I could reopen it. But the items that were put in our packet, so one of the things that happens right now is that there's a door hanger put on, but it's a whole different ballgame when you start accessing someone's backyard. Usually the front yard is open. The backyard is a whole different world. And so I think what we'd like to say, because we cannot deny access to that easement in the back, also in the back, what I have found sitting here at the city council meetings is that most of the citizens have no idea that they have a backyard easement. They've put gardens back there, they've put trees back there. Backyards are a whole different world, and most people have no idea that there's even an easement there. Also, many times people go in and out through the garage door. They never see the hanger. Even though the hanger was placed there, they just don't even know it's there. So then they're shocked, right, when something's happening. And one thing I will say, because we've had a sit-down meeting with TDS, and I really appreciated it, I would encourage us, if anybody has a problem, please have them reach out to our office. I would love to be able to track more. And we do track our citizen complaints, and so it helped us when we sat down with TDS and we had a good meeting. I'd love to get those complaints so that we could really track them. At the time when we met, one of the things that I was under the understanding is that the number of complaints per the homes that the installation went in was actually relatively low. However, any interruption to a citizen comes back to us, right? Because we've authorized it. We agreed to have TDS come in. Now, I know the intent with TDS. For example, a discussion we had when we met with them is that every crew would have at least one person that speaks English. Doesn't sound like that happened. How long ago was your work done, Dale?
January?
Okay. I think we met with TDS possibly before that. So needless to say, there are subcontractors that are doing the work. And so it's really staying on top of those subcontractors because they're supposed to be someone that speaks English on every single crew. And then the timeline for response, obviously that's not 6 weeks. When you've got water flooding and you can't irrigate, that's a problem. So we do have some corrections that need to be made. But so are we allowed to put, Joe, Joe, just a second, are we allowed to put parameters we are allowed to put parameters on the access to those backyards?
The manner in which the easement's utilized, yes.
Okay.
It's got to be reasonably related to, a particular specific purpose you're trying to address, whether that's prior notice, cleanliness of the job site, no damage outside of the right-of-way, things like that.
So Daniel, before we move forward, because I know that we have to allow that, I want to be involved from my office in the parameters that are put there. Because we've had discussions, and so it's my understanding that we cannot deny it, but we need to make sure those parameters are really clear and succinct, and so I want to approve them before they go out.
Okay.
So, and Councilman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mayor. Why, the CDS, why do they want to bury it? Why can't they put it on the poles?
Many of our subdivisions no longer have poles. They're anything newer than, the probably mid-70s do not have power poles in the neighborhoods any longer.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
So where do they get their electricity from?
underground.
Underground, huh? Yeah, I know. I haven't had, one thing that I did notice in this report is that there were some people within our community that did not and actually threatened some of our employees or their employees. It's not listed on the report, and I wanted to see exactly what they're saying in comparison to how many do agree to it.
Agree to
allow them to enter their backyard.
So they have not started doing backyard installs in Nampa yet. I understand they have in some other communities adjacent to us. So Jared may be able to speak to that, or these guys. So I don't know what their experience has been like that. We do find it challenging to get in the backyards to do line locates, just because of, the nature of a fenced backyard. It can be challenging. And that's one of the concerns that we have is our locators' ability to get in there and accurately locate. The newer developments, 2005 and on, we no longer put pressure irrigation in the backyards. And so that certainly gives them, there's less likelihood of a strike on a city-owned utility for sure as they go back there. So there's some benefits to the city with that, but there are challenges that also come with it.
So who's the actual company that's hired TDS to do all this work?
So TDS is the
they're the
fiber
ones?
provider. They have hired ABB.
Oh, I
yeah.
see, okay.
And they have subcontractors under them
Yeah,
doing
okay, that's what I
installations.
wanted to hear. I'm concerned when we have 3 councilmen, or 2 councilmen and 1 that received information of not good reports. I'm concerned about that. I haven't had any conversation with anyone, and so I would have liked to have had a report on those as well, but as it may be, I'm very, very concerned about this and don't like it.
And I will say, engineering, we have been tracking the reports of issues that we get. I will say they are a very small percentage of the number of properties that have been installed on. I don't have an exact percentage, but it is, the list is certainly small in comparison to the number of properties that they've gone through at this point.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Madam Mayor,
go ahead.
just have a question for legal. Joe, can you tell me if fiber is a utility under a legal description? Utility in descriptions that I looked up are sewer, water, necessity items, power.
Yeah, let me look.
Mayor, so we coordinated with Todd on that. They fall under the telecommunications utility for the federal and state standards, is my understanding, is the communications we received from Todd.
Mayor. So when I look on this map and I see an area of purple in the lower left-hand corner, currently you have 2 council members that have had bad experiences. In that purple area, Victor and I also live.
Right.
So, it's just a matter of time. So I guess my question is this is a discussion item, and in our packet it said that TDS approached the Napa Engineering Division to request an allowance to enter the utilities as far as the utility easement in the back of the lots. If this is this a discussion item where we can say, no, we would prefer that they continue on the path that they are on with front only?
Mayor and Councilman Haverfield, our coordination with legal, Todd has indicated that they have the right to go into public utility easements. We do not have the right to deny them that.
You don't have the right. I have the right as a personal property owner to restrict them because it's as mentioned, that's trespassing in a sense, but you're saying that's not, as a private property owner, I don't have that opportunity to restrict someone from entering the backyard?
I would defer to, that's a legal question. There is a public utility easement there, so there are rights. You are not, a property owner is not the only holder of rights to that property. There are rights granted with that public utility easement for things to happen there. But I defer more to legal on that specifically.
So who owns the liability if they walk onto a piece of property and then they themselves get attacked by a vicious animal that's contained in the backyard, by a vicious property owner that doesn't want them in their backyard? Darrell's mother, as far as coming out with a shotgun. Who bears the
Probably
liability in
employer.
those cases?
I would guess the employer does. Because does the city have, this is a question for legal, does the city have any liability related to that, to Councilman Haverfield's question?
In that context, no.
Yes, okay. So actually, so Tom Points brought this to me and mentioned, he was going to mention it in a staff report. Because we have dealt with some concerns from our citizens, I asked that it be put as a new business item so that council was aware, so there were no surprises. Right, knowing that it isn't something that we can deny, but it is something that we can guide, and we can put the guidance on how they access. And then it's going to be important for us as a city probably to communicate something. to the neighbors in the backyards. I would just highly recommend for TDS, you know what's wonderful? The service that TDS is bringing into our market is very positive. This is a privately owned company that has come into our market. They're enhancing and expanding the broadband that is available, and it will help on the overall pricing across the city. What they're doing is a great thing, and it's a massive investment for a small family-owned, privately owned business that's expanding into our area, because we as a city have not gone into the broadband utility as some cities in the state of Idaho did it as a utility, and the city themselves funded the broadband. For us and the size of our city, that isn't possible, but increasing the service and the enhancement in our city is a positive thing. It's just challenging to do it. It's very challenging. So with that, I was a little concerned when TDS was going into backyards, because I know it's going to be quite a challenge to do so. I just think it's important that City Council knows it. I appreciate the comments that have been made. And so for you guys to know, for TDS and Jared online, needless to say, we have some challenges. And so we really need to be careful how we approach this. And going into backyards is a little concerning. If we could do it in the front yards, even with the challenges, you know, we face, it's better. And then the irrigation piece is a whole different world. And I think it's important that they understand the challenges, the time, the work order, and it's 6 weeks, not catching a real person. These are discussions that we've had in a sit-down meeting, expecting a little bit better customer service from corporate. Corporate was a little surprised, I think, at times at some of what was happening. The fact that we still didn't have English-speaking people to be able to respond is not a good thing. And so TDS has done some wonderful things engaging with our community. So it's not an easy process. So with that, is there any other, because this is a discussion item and it's not an action item, shall we move on? And I think one thing I want to say publicly, please send some of these comments to the mayor's office. We have a list, Jonica will list, she'll work directly with engineering and the list that they're keeping. We will have a sit down, and that way we can communicate so that TDS is hearing it firsthand, then we can figure out how to resolve. So,
Mayor Kling, just
yes.
one thing. If TDS would actually hold meetings with subdivisions and HOAs, it might help. I don't agree with the backyard thing at all. Not even with the front yard either, as far as that goes. But I'm only one of 100,000, so.
You know, they have a really phenomenal public relations team here that is outstanding. I have the highest respect. In fact, I think I have a meeting with TDS. It could be this week or next week. Somebody's coming in town. So I think that's a really good idea. So it's a great idea, because if they, before going into an area, could meet with that neighborhood, it's a little bit more work, but it could save some headache and actually establish who the point of contact is if there's a problem and what to do about it. So, Daniel, is there anything else we should know?
Not that I have.
I appreciate you bringing this forward. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you to TDS. Thank you guys for being here. Needless to say, yes, you may.
So I just wanted to,
Go ahead and come forward. That way we can catch you on the microphone.
So I'm Nick with TDS, outside plant construction coordinator. Just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're doing in Caldwell. So we're doing backlot construction in Caldwell
Nampa?
as well.
Oh, and
In
Caldwell.
currently, yeah.
Okay.
So we haven't gone
Okay.
forward with Nampa build. So currently in Nampa, we're doing front lot construction. You guys probably heard and seen. You just put the door hangers there. Crews will come in within 72 hours and start building. Now, when we're doing backlot, that's not the case at all. We're going to be working with the city, escorting their locators out to the job sites so they can get access to locate it. If we can't, we're out there 9, 10 p.m. at night, making sure we can get in contact with these people. If we still can't get access, we'll skip that house and then just keep trying to go back. We're just not going to go in someone's backyard. We're not going to hop a fence to try to get in someone's backyard. We will make sure we talk to those residents before we go in that backyard. To speak on to not getting the situation taken care of with your mother, we truly apologize for that.
Well, it sounds like it's more there. Our situation's been taken care of. It just took a lot of effort and, poor communication, so.
Correct, yeah, and we're working on the ETS ticket. So we had that
Yeah.
meeting back in, I believe it was February, and that's when we changed the English speaking to make sure.
Okay.
Same thing when it comes to backlot. Obviously, you have to have someone English speaking. Jeff is the OSPC for Nampa area, and he'll be out with the crews because it's backlot. As you guys know, there's people who are going to be upset with us being there, so they will be out there with the crews.
So Mayor, excuse me, I heard something that concerned me, and so maybe clarification. So you're, to find locators for, you're taking a city employee out with you every time?
So when we go knock, notify residents, we're coming into your neighborhood, we're going to take the city locators with us.
So you've not needed to do that for the front lots?
Correct, not for the front lots.
So we're using city employee times to go out to?
No, sir, sorry for the misunderstanding.
Yeah, that's what I need clarification on.
When they get the dig ticket to go locate, we're going to escort, we're going to go with them. So we're going to escort them to
Okay, so
help talk to
you would be
residents.
automatically doing that, but you're not having to do that on the front lots though, correct? Or you are? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, Councilman Bruner, we do send a locator out on all of these projects.
Okay, so
to-
you're
to
already
do
doing
line
that, whether
locators.
it's
We are
front
already doing
or
that.
back. Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Mayor,
Thank
so
you. Okay.
Daniel, can your locator identify PVC?
So if it's PVC, anything that's PVC should have a line or a tracer wire on it to locate it.
And if it doesn't?
If it doesn't, we will mark it based on the record drawings that we have, which is how we would do that regardless. If we are not confident in the location, we typically coordinate with the company doing that install, say we weren't able to get a tracer wire feed on this, and so you need to pothole it to verify that it is at that location, which would be something that they would be doing if that happens.
So our home was built 25 years ago. Over half of the lot is frontage of a road. There are sprinkler heads along the sidewalk directed back inward. I would not expect that sprinkler system had any wires put in it for locates.
Okay, sorry. For personal sprinkler systems, no, that would not have any locate. I
Okay.
thought you were talking about
Yeah,
city
public
pressurized
utilities,
irrigation.
Yes, so my concern is, again, you're going to have the same amount of PVC pipe underground for irrigation purposes that are directed sprinkler heads. Whether it's in the backyard or the front yard, it's not going to matter because we have grass lawns. So I don't see why the backyard installation is going to be any better unless it's public utilities that they're trying to avoid.
There are certainly less public utilities in the rear yards.
So are they responsible for fixing any of the underground sprinkler systems they damage?
They are responsible to fix any damage that is done, yes.
Okay, and how long, he's been sitting for 5.5 months waiting for his to be fixed properly. How long are we talking about the installs, that work being done?
So, sir, if that happened over winter, we do not do any sprinkler repairs during the winter, just because if we make the repair, we think it's fixed, then they turn on pressurized irrigation, sprinklers come on, then we have no idea if it worked or not. So what we do is we wait until.
Talk to this guy.
Sorry, Reynolds. So we wait until spring comes on, irrigation comes on. As you guys probably know, we have a huge backlog that we have to get to, so that might be why there's a delay in that repair. But that's why there was that initial delay in making that repair.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I own a plumbing business, and my wife is currently watering our front yard with a hose, and we have automatic sprinklers, but I don't have time to fix it. I'm busy. I have like 7 jobs besides this one. And so she's not very happy about that. But what I said tonight was much nicer than what she would have said to you. She is not happy. And then as far as fiber goes, we do a lot of excavation in my business. Fiber is expensive to fix. When we get close to it in a right of way, we don't even go there. We get a vacuum excavator or have a representative stand there watching us dig around the fiber because it's very expensive to fix. If we have fiber running through people's backyards with no minimum depth, now we have a bigger problem because in Nampa, Idaho, as a way of life, we have gardens and we have dog kennels and you name it. And they don't know that. A homeowner doesn't know the dig line rules like what I know. And they're going to go out there and get their rototiller out or whatever, and they're going to dig up this fiber line, then be responsible for the cost. That's not us being prudent to our citizens at all. And right now, I have Sparklight. They ran the cable across the top of my ground through my garden spot. And is that good? No, it's not good either. You know, they keep saying they're gonna come out and bury it, they never have. I have it up against the fence, I know where it is, I'm not gonna break it, but that line is not very expensive to fix versus a fiber line. So, that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yes, sir. And we do have a minimum depth of 18 inches. It's just not city standard for us to be when we're in the back lot, but we do have an 18-inch TDS standard, and it will be placed in conduit as well. It will not be bare fiber.
Mayor, I just want to say really quick, I also had an issue with mine, and so, I mean, so I just dug that baby up and fixed it myself, so I didn't reach out to anybody, so I can't speak to the customer service side of that, but I just wonder how many citizens are like me that just took care of it or chose to not take care of it. But out of like 6, 7 of us that live here in the city, and at least 3 of us have had issues, that's highly concerning for me. So, just throwing it out there.
Thank you.
Mayor, just one
yes.
last thing, and I realize, now I'm talking about back in the 70s, long before you were born. And I used to read meters, Rideau Power, so when the power meters were in the backyard. And what has been said a little bit about here, I got bit so many times it wasn't even funny. One was because I was brash and thought I could go in there and the dog wouldn't, get me or whatever the case is. So there again, communication, I mean, not knowing when coming out, even when fixing my mother's or whatever the case, if someone's going in that backyard and the homeowner, whether at work or whatever, does not know they're coming, how do you handle that?
So we do not enter, sir. We do not go in the backyard till we've made communication with the homeowner.
So at the time that you're going in, the person's going in the backyard, you're making communication with that and making sure they're home, they're aware of what you're doing?
Yes, sir. So they'll go 72 hours before.
And and everyone has a certified license or whatever the case is, showing the homeowner what they're about?
Yes, so we have a permit and a print they'll be carrying with them as well. And then foreman will be on site as well as TDS representative because we are going back lot because of this.
Does everyone wear TDS apparel? I guess you're a
No, so it will
subcontractor.
be, yes, it'll be ADB apparel and they all have TDS stickers on their trucks. They'll be parked outside. And then whatever the subcontractor is, they'll have their own apparel as well.
But a TDS representative will be with anyone when they go into a backyard,
An
or
AD
when they,
Correct. So our subcontractor, ADB supervisor will be on site, correct. Now, if they can't access a home, that's when TDS will come out on site, try to talk to the homeowner, or continue to wait. We skip that home and continue to wait till we can't get access.
okay, great.
Mayor Kling, one more thing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but, so what do you do with a homeowner that says, you cannot have access to my yard, you will not enter my yard? Do you just tell them, oh, well, we have the right to do it?
No, sir, we've actually ran into this problem about 2-3 times out in Caldwell already. That's when TDS will come on site, try to explain to them about public utility easement. The homeowner is still not having it. That's when we'll escalate it to the police department. The police department will come out on site and escort us in the backyard. That's what we've done in the city of Caldwell.
Wow. Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Okay, so that was item 8.5 on the agenda. I think I'd like to go to 8.3, we'll do 8.1 last. Excuse me, we've done 8.2, 8.3, 8.4 is where we'll go. This is an action item. I have a quick question. Do we need a break?
Yeah.
Let's do a 5-minute break and then come back. And hopefully we can move through these last items within 10 or 15 minutes and then we'll be done. Okay, thank you. So 5-minute break. acting tonight. Not just you guys. Not, yeah, not really. It's not your fault. I think we're all ready to be done, though. So here we go. Because we have, yeah, later. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to step into business item 8.1 next. So I changed my mind. We're going to go to 8.1, and this is just a discussion filling the vacancy of City Council Seat 6 with Jacob Bauer sitting down. I just wanted to have a discussion with City Council to let you know that it is my recommendation that we do not fill this seat. If it were longer before the election, I would consider an appointment, but I would like to recommend that we not consider an appointment and leave the seat open until the election, because to bring somebody in that does not have an understanding, it's not long enough to really get up to speed before an election. So that's my recommendation. I just wondered if anyone had any problem with that, or if you would support that recommendation not to fill the seat.
I don't support it, Mayor. 6 months, I don't really think we go 6 months without a.
Without.
I realize it'll be probably only 5 months by the time, but I think that way also the electorate can get an idea, even in a short period of time, whether that's the person they want to elect. They would need to run in November, right?
Well, they would need to run for seat 6.
Right. So we have to appoint somebody from District 6.
So I guess I'm concerned about that, because I think if we appoint someone, it gives them a distinct advantage in an election, and I don't want my appointment to be influencing an election. I feel like it should be a very independent decision.
Again, Mayor, I don't agree. I think if you have a committee of yourself and Councilman Haverfield or whatever, and appointing just like and he's not paying me, but just like we have a councilman here that was appointed, and I realized he had a little time before he had to run, but I mean, I can't think of a better way of serving our citizens and getting the best person in a seat, and if that gives them a little advantage for election, then I have no problem with that. That's my personal opinion.
Thank you for sharing that. Council?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I support that decision, and I think bringing somebody in right before budget's not really the most responsible thing, because there is a lot that has to be learned before going into that process. So I support your decision to wait and hold off.
Leave the seat open?
Mayor.
Thank you.
And again, precedents behind that decision, we had the same thing happened with Kelly Gibbons when it was determined that she lived with a Nampa address, but it was outside the city limits of Nampa. And it was in a similar time frame to this, and the choice was not to fill the seat. The optics, I think, are problematic, especially now with the districts. If you're going to find someone, the only way I would support filling the seat was if it was someone that had no intention to run in the fall. That way, it's not a favoritism that's given to one over another. There's no reason why it has to be a District 6 person to fill the remaining term. But I agree. I just think, plus it lessens the burden on you to break ties. But it does take you out of the picture of making decisions.
Yes, it does.
So, I mean, that's where I think I was really going to fall back on what your recommendation was, because I can see it both ways. And like I say, I think trying to find someone that resides in seat 6 is, that would be, I think, favoritism given to someone instead of allowing the electorate to make the decision in the fall.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from our remaining council members?
Mayor Kling, I was just thinking about this all weekend since you and I spoke after Jacob's news. And are we missing a voice that should be there? That's my concern. And I thought about maybe doing it this way, that we should appoint someone that replaces Jacob's seat, not seat 6, or they can't run for election. So I kind of hate going on with 6 months without someone there. So it's a tough call, Mayor. It's a tough call. And I know bringing somebody in here without any knowledge, like Natalie, she didn't know anything about council, but she quickly learned. So yeah, it's a good orientation process, but I would like to see that, someone that does not live in 6, where you can't run. Yeah, just a thought.
So you want somebody that's from 2 or 4, is it all right to run somebody from 2 or 4, then, and then they could just run in those? What's the difference?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking
Well, I don't know, just my thought. Just my thought.
Well, it would, yeah, I mean, personally, I think what I heard you say is not 2, 4, or 6, but appoint someone that is not running for election this fall, so that we're not influencing election.
Okay, replacing Jacob in his seat, not the district.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
But since we're districts now, can we do that legally?
Well, someone's going to run for the spot, you know that.
Well, yeah, but
They can
can we
run.
appoint somebody that's not in that district now that we have districts? Don't we have to appoint someone that's in the district?
That's a really good question.
Hear from legal, right?
Yes, legal.
Good question.
It is a good, you're so smart.
That's a great question. So I think you can, because when you created districts, the district that, you may or may not live in the district that you're assigned to right now. That's happened to a few folks who can't run for reelection because they don't live in the district that they were assigned to. So I think, and I was just looking at the code section, that the seat that he has is at large, that expires with his term. So the appointment would be filling and finishing what he otherwise could have done, an at-large seat. And if that person doesn't happen to live in a district that has a seat open for election this fall, that person can't run for anything. But they could still finish what Jacob had the right to do himself. Great question.
Good. That's what I'm thinking.
So you would not,
So,
I'm sorry, Mayor, but so to clarify, so you would not, you said not 6, but how about 2 and 4?
No, this is just replacing at-large Jacob's position.
But no one that's, so you want to be concerned about the district they live in, or no?
No, I'm not right now, but whoever wants to run in seat 6, or in District 6 can. They just won't be appointed for that seat.
So they could run for 2 and 4, and you don't think that's favoritism?
Well, no.
I would,
No, they're going to run, Darrell. They're going to run for District 6.
but he's saying, what if they're running for election this fall, but they're not running for that seat? And my thought is, no, I would like to appoint someone that is not running for office this fall.
I agree.
Just in general.
And I'm fine with that. I just think the seat needs to be filled, and,
What I'm hearing is fill the seat, not necessarily, so how do you guys feel about filling the seat versus not necessarily?
Mayor, Natalie, before budget season, I think it's going to be tough.
I don't think we could even get it filled before budget
I don't
season.
know what happened.
But I can see the 6-month issue as well. It is a bummer that the mayor can't break ties.
Well, it's going to be more like 4 months though, right? Not,
Yeah,
because it'll
4
be
months.
after budget, August, September, October. It's like more like 4 months. That's like 8 council meetings.
3 months.
Yeah, in reality, it's not long before the election.
You just can't miss, Darrell.
You what?
You can't miss any meetings.
I don't think I've missed a meeting in
Well, that's, Mayor, that's the other thing, is we still have to have a quorum, which is
We do.
4 of 6.
Only one person could ever miss at one time.
Right.
But so far, we haven't ever had more than one person at one time that has missed a meeting. As long as I can remember, we haven't had that.
It'd be the same quorum and number, even if it was 5, though, right?
Correct.
Or would 3?
So I guess that is the question. But it's based on 6 seats. Is that correct? It's based on 6 seats or not?
You have 5 occupied seats. So of 5 occupied seats, 3 would be your quorum.
Oh,
Our quorum, so we could actually miss 2, and hopefully we would
Because it's
never
vacant.
miss more than 1. Okay, so it would be easy to meet quorum.
I'm not in favor of the, I feel like we're trying to not manipulate the system, but then we're manipulating it at the same time, because if we open it up for election or for at large, essentially, but then we're saying, except for, we're excluding people that live in these areas, I feel like we can't really do that. If we're gonna put it open, I feel like it has to be a level playing field for everybody to be able to apply for it.
Well, my thought is anybody in the city could apply for it. It doesn't matter where they live. I'm just asking that it is not somebody that is going to be running for office in November.
Yeah, and I see that. And I agree with that, but I don't agree with the fact that who are we to tell someone they can't run?
Right.
You know? And so everyone they have the right to run, so who are we to say you can't run, right? I mean, so we're
They
like
can run, but I may
manipulating
not
it.
appoint them.
Yeah, but
That would be the difference, is that
but
I'm,
then if you appoint them and then they decide to run, they
Right.
have the right to run.
correct.
So I just feel like it's easier, it's cleaner to just not appoint. Honestly, that's my opinion.
That was absolutely the direction I was leaning, was to leave it open because it is very clean. There are a few disadvantages, but that was the direction I was leaning. So any further comments on it? I guess just stating that my thought was not to come forward with an appointment to the council and not to open it up and post it. I guess I just want to make sure I'm not going against what the will of this council is, because it really,
I mean, can we just have a vote? It's not an executive session, right? Can't we?
no, and it's not an official action, but I would love to hear, the nod, just the nod. Do you support us leaving it open, the seat open? Okay, so, I need to know. It's, because this is a public, this is a public.
So there's 3 opens and two filled, so I guess that.
Is that correct?
Mine would be leave it open.
I'm supporting the mayor.
Leave it open, leave it open, leave it open.
Phil.
Phil, and
I'm
you're,
gonna go with you, Mayor.
you're going to leave it open?
Yeah, I think we'll leave it open.
Okay.
For sure it's open.
Darrell, I'm sorry. I really appreciate your opinion.
No,
I greatly appreciate
I
it.
just like to have the citizens have a full body, so that's.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that, too.
In the ideal world, yes.
No, I understand.
Yeah, okay.
This is and, we'll just let Jacob have it, that's.
Madam Mayor, do we have in the budget to buy one of those fat head cutouts of Jacob?
Yeah.
I'll buy that myself.
We can make one? Okay, so that takes us through 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, and 8.5. Excuse me, we haven't done 8.4, I just have an arrow there. So we're ready for 8.4. So 8.4 is an action item. This is to authorize the Family Justice Center to apply for a 1-year Safe Teen Assessment Center Case Management and Assessment Grant. This is through Southwest District Health in the amount of $294,011.86, which will support 2 case manager positions, an assessment team, and direct services for clients.
So move.
Second.
Mayor,
Yes.
so this is a 1-year request to support employees. So what happens year 2? And is this, by making this motion and authorizing this to take place, are we as a city then taking them on these manager positions in the assessment team? And obviously, there's a benefit to the city, but I'm just wondering, as far as ongoing, are we obligating ourselves?
So the only thing interesting here is there's a partial amount pending approval in the FY24 budget. So, but that we're authorizing them to go ahead and move forward and apply for the grant. The dollar amount will come through the 24 budget, and it is a 1-year grant. And one thing that is consistent with these grants for the FJC is that the employees know that they're funded through a grant. If there isn't grant funding, they leave. It's strictly funded. There is no liability for the city and no responsibility of the city to fund those positions. They're not ongoing positions. They're only funded through the grant.
And there's no matching funds required by the city?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe we had a motion and a second. Is that correct? Any further discussion? Roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
And now we're ready for 8.6, and this is an action item to award a bid and authorize the mayor to sign a contract for culvert replacement, 10 Mile Creek at Franklin Boulevard. It's a project with Knife River Corporation in the amount of $526,917. It is approved in the FY23 budget.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 8.7 is an action item. This is actually the first reading of an ordinance, and this is amending Title 5, Chapters 1, 2, 5, 10, 18, 19, and 20 of the Nampa City Code pertaining to the business license expiration date and fees. It has been reviewed and approved by legal. It is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho, amending Title 5, Chapters 1, 2, 5, 10, 18, 19, and 20 of the Nampa City Code pertaining to the business license expiration date and fees, providing for severability, providing for an effective date, and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Make the motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
8.8 is to award a bid and authorize the mayor to sign a construction contract with Boise Floor Covering and Design for the Senior Center flooring replacement. This is for a total of $69,649, and this is to complete all necessary work. The agreement was approved by legal, and it is approved in the FY23 budget.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
So do I.
If I read this correctly, this wasn't the low bid on the project? But was one bid rejected, non-responsive, or?
There was an amendment or something they didn't follow through on.
So it was non-responsive?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And the schedule, the work is going to be performed during the first 2 weeks of September, while the Nampa Senior Center is already closed.
Oh, good.
So they'll do it during that time frame.
Mayor Kling.
Yes.
So is there someone that can answer a question?
No, I told Brian because it was going to be late that he didn't have to come, and I'm so sorry.
Okay.
So he gave it to me, but I don't know that I can answer your question.
Well, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and see if you can answer them.
Okay.
So this is a small amount. I mean, it's under 70,000, but I assume that they were required to provide bonds and insurance?
I can't answer that. I'm
I
sorry.
saw that there
Mayor,
was an insurance in there.
Daniel, thank you.
Haverfield. I worked with Mark on these ones. Yes, they have their performance and payment bonds.
So are they required to be Public Works licensed?
This is not a public works construction, so
Okay.
they do not have to have a public works contractor's license, no.
So they don't have to pay Davis-Bacon wage rates?
Only if this is grant funded, which I believe it's just city
not.
funds.
City
Those are my
funds.
questions for you, Mayor.
Daniel, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you. Thank you.
So I'll ask to approve the bid for the construction of the
Second.
senior center.
Okay, so it has been moved and seconded to sign the construction contract for the Boise Floor Covering and Design for the Senior Center flooring project, as stated in our thing. Is there any further discussion?
Just, is there some reason why Nampa, we had two floor covering businesses, why they didn't bid on this? Do we have any idea?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Darrell, this company is De La Boz,
Oh, it is Dillabaugh. I know they have 5 stores, so,
several different brands, but this is.
so they just had Boise on there. Okay. Okay, I got it.
Thank you for answering that question.
It was actually Nampa.
Okay, I think we're ready for roll call.
Brunner.
Yes.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Rodriguez. All in favor, motion carries.
I mean, yes.
8.9 is an action item. To authorize the mayor and public works director to sign a task order for the attached scope of work with parametrics for the North Side Boulevard, Karcher Road to Birch Lane for $125,314, time and materials not to exceed, and it is approved in the FY23 budget.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Ingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 810 is an action item. This is to authorize the Public Works Director to sign the local professional services agreement with ITD and Precision Engineering for the Grimes City Pathway Extension Nampa project in the amount of $98,768, which is a lump sum. It is approved in the FY23 budget.
So move.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Ingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Under Section 10 of the agenda, unfinished business, we have one action item. This is the first reading of ordinance of rezone from BC, which is community business, to RS 8.5 single-family residential on a .6-acre parcel at 0 Southside Boulevard for Joseph Profit, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Nampa, Idaho to provide a RS 8.5 single-family residential zone designation for certain lands commonly known as parcel R3230301, located at 0 Southside Boulevard, Nampa, Idaho, comprising approximately .6 acres, more or less, determining that said zoning is in the best interest of the citizens and consistent with the city's comprehensive plan. Rezoning said property from BC Community Business to RS 8.5 single-family residential, providing for recordation, instructing the city engineer to designate said property as RS 8.5 single-family residential on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, subject to any conditions imposed by the city council, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly, providing for an effective date and repealing all ordinances, rules, and regulations and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Mayor Kling, I'll make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Ingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
That concludes our regular business. I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss legal ramifications for options for pending litigation or controversies, and J, to consider labor contract matters authorized under Section 74206A.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Ingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds? All in favor, motion carries.
So we will do our executive session in this room, which would mean that everyone has to go. Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it. Thank you.
One moment.
He goes, yeah, the hell no. I thought, good for you. Oh, you were talking to him? Yeah, he's got to have hair.
I said it was